On his debut, Jarno Uppbeat wins at Spa.
It's Martinez in Montreal. David beats Goliath.
It's a true underdog story. John Evans wins at Mexico.
And it's Super Sam Corby who takes the PlayStation Championship.
FRA Ronhard takes his first WOR Championship. He is your Xbox champion.
And Jake Benham is a two-time WOR champion.
Stop it! Around the outside of Barrage's line. Shadow is contact again. Ronhard is around.
Bethany, surely is going to win here at Abu Dhabi. He does!
16 races across 5 continents. From Brazil to Belgium and Bahrain to Britain. Soon this story starts. Across 3 platforms, hundreds will begin the quest in search of glory and the right to be called a WOR champion. Lights out, and we're racing in Season 12. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome along to the action here at WOR. It's round 13 here in the PC's top tier as we head to La Castellet for the French Grand Prix at Circuit Paul Ricard. I'm Ginger Andy, and joining me once again, as he's done throughout the season, is Dan Field. Dan, looking forward to this one tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. France is actually one of my favourite circuits. I think it's always got a good flow to it. Maybe it's not the best for racing in the world, but certainly the strategical element will come into play. So I'm really excited to see how these drivers can fare around this French circuit. Yeah,
it should be a fantastic Grand Prix around this circuit, but let's quickly remind ourselves of last week's action. There was a change in the result last week. Shanaka Clay getting a penalty removed, and as a result he leaped in front of Jarno Uppbeat after what was a thrilling race in Saudi Arabia. One of the best races in WR this season. Madness in the closing laps of that Grand Prix. 4 wide, 3 wide, carnage, crashes. It was dramatic as ever, and Shanaka Clay coming out on top, getting his 3-second time penalty removed and beating Jarno Uppbeat by 0.07 of a second. So Uppbeat, he was second, and Nicholas Longuet was third, with Luke Smith coming home in fourth. Thomas Ronhard finished the Grand Prix fifth, with Alvaro Canaton, Shanaka Clay's teammate, in sixth. Brendan Lee came home 7th, Simon Schutter was 8th, ahead of Duncan Hoffland and Jeffrey Ritchie. So, yeah, interesting race last week, Dan, a real cracker, and in the end, Shanaka Clay getting his penalty removed and coming out on top.
Yeah, I don't think Clay was a driver that we all expected to actually come out with a win there, and I didn't even think that Jarno was going to be challenged into that last corner. Out of nowhere, there's a flying Williams down the inside, and he pipped the win. It was incredible that he pulled that off, and it was really... at least under my nose. I don't know about everybody else, but certainly I was not expecting it. But it was a great win for Shanaka.
Yeah, I totally agree. I wasn't expecting it at all. I was actually on board, I think, with Jarno Uppbeat, and all of a sudden, this Williams came out of nowhere into the final corner. Did not expect it at all. And fair play to Shanaka Clay on getting that victory. So let's see what it has done to the driver standings after that race last week. This is the situation as you can see at the minute. Nicholas Longuet on top with 127 points. And he's opened up a nice little margin over Tomek Paradzis. The gap now 22 points between the pair. Only 1 point between Paradzis and Caraton, who sits in third. Shanaka Clay, after that victory, propelling himself onto 102 points. Quite a few drivers in that chasing group looking to get on terms with Nicholas Longuet, the Frenchman. Thomas Ronhard, he's on 94 points, with Luke Smith next in the order with 88. Jake Benham has 70. Barry Burneman has 50, Sam Corby on 39, and Stachalik on 37 points. Well, the cars are just about to head out to qualifying, but before we do that, let's have a quick look at one of our great sponsors here at WOR. GridRival. Racing has never been this fun. Join the World Online Racing League today, and you can follow the link on that screen or search World Online Racing, no spaces to get involved. It's just a fantasy app. We've got a Formula 1 league going. You can buy drivers, pick your drivers, and chop and change throughout the races of the season. and pick up some points and take on everyone in the WOR community. So be sure to check that link out on screen or search World Online Racing to get involved with the action. But I think it's time now for us to jump into qualifying, Dan. It should be a cracker here at Paul Ricard, a track you say you really enjoy. So let's jump into that action right this second. Let's catch some of the cars out there on the racetrack on their outlaps with the opening few seconds of qualifying. And here is one of them, Louis Welch, the padman, out there on the racetrack. So Dan, what is it about this track that you really enjoy? You say it's one of your favourites. I'm going to be honest, if it disappeared off the Formula 1 calendar, I wouldn't mind, but you like it, so tell us why.
I mean, it doesn't make for the best real-life Formula 1 races, but I certainly find that it's really fun to drive on the F1 game, so I just really like the flow of it. I think it's one of the easier tracks as well, which I guess suits me because, well, I'm quite terrible at this game, but certainly, I mean, there's quite a lot to like it for me.
Yeah, it is a sure flowing track, especially in that first sector, very, very flowing, and the final sector too. A few tricky corners out there on the racetrack, no doubt about that. And a couple of the corners can be quite blind on entry. There's not much reference points around the racetrack, given how, you know, how wide open space there is on the runoff areas. But we are getting underway and we are getting some laps in. Alvaro Canaton is one of the first men out there on a lap, and he was actually a big shock in PSGL during the week. You will find from time to time we will cross-reference the two leagues because, of course, they're both top tier, they're both PC, they both run Q1, Q2, Q3, and they both have some super drivers in them. So he was a bit of a surprise exit in PSGL, 19th in qualifying during the week. We're looking to bounce back from that. He's still well in the title hunt, Dan, so a qualifying like that here tonight would be a bit of a disaster for Alvaro Canaton.
Yeah, Alvaro Canaton, of course, was in P2 before Tomac Paranchis came along, and of course he missed a race, I believe 2 weeks ago. He was unfortunately ill and he couldn't participate in WOR, but he's still within the championship hunt, although Longuet is beginning to stretch away. But in these dying rounds of the season, where there's not much left to give, they've really got to iron out those mistakes. And if he can keep the qualifying performances in the top 10 rather than being eliminated in Q1, then I'd say he's still got a chance in this championship. He's just about to come up towards the line. We'll see where the benchmark is going to be for these drivers, and it's going to be a 28.633.
Yeah, good time there from Alvaro Canaton to go quickest, just a fraction ahead of his teammate and race winner last time out Shinaka Clay, beaten though by Tomac Paranchis by a very solid 0.3 of a second. So good there, good time there from him. Tino Nakarunen back with us this week. He's P7 with his opening effort of 128.9, slowest at the time so far. No longer the case as Vince Sasbo, I'm being a complete mess of that. He has gone 13th and slowest of the orders so far. Nicholas Longuet now popping up into second place, a 128.503 for his opening effort. What about Thomas Ronhart? He's just starting a flying lap, and the young Dutchman really showing his worth here as we've got some light rain, I think, now beginning to fall around the racetrack. Dan, when we jumped into the lobby, the skies did look overcast. The driver's out there very quickly on the soft tyre, and this might mean that the soft runs that they do now might be their only runs in dry conditions.
Yeah, and that is going to spell disaster for the likes of Louis Welch, Will Lewis, Alessio De Capua, Thomas Ronhart of all people, and Iker Baena. If they can't get their lap times done in suitable conditions, Baena's only in the first sector, and Thomas Ronhart's just in sector 2 right now. So it's not looking good for these guys. It's going to become a bit greasy on the circuit, and it'll be more difficult to put in a competitive lap time. So it's really going to be hit or miss as to whether these guys are going to see Q2.
Well, let's see then. Thomas Ronhart makes his way through the middle part of the lap. Big lap needed here from him. I was interesting to see everyone going for the soft tyre. Now we know exactly why that is the case, as we can watch him now come towards the end of the lap. And I've got to say, I hate this corner. I absolutely hate this left-hander. A nightmare for someone like me with limited skill level, shall we say, on the Formula 1 game. Really, really challenging, and I get impatient, pick the throttle up too early and run wide. This final corner as well, very tight and very deceiving on the way in. Doesn't look as slow and as tight as you approach it. Here's Ronhart coming across the line now. The start-finish line very far down the straight, but that does not deter Thomas Ronhart from crossing it. He goes P3, 128.587, and at the minute that should see him through safely. So the bottom 5 taking shape already, Dan, and we could have a bit of a wait here as we now see Iker Baena cross the line. What's he going to do? He's going to go only 17th fastest on a 29.5, so that's not a good time for him.
Yeah, no, this is not looking good for anyone in the bottom 5 at the moment. Currently occupied by Ben Sabakonye, Ika Bayanyan, Louis Welch, Will Lewis, who I believe has a qualifying ban because the last time he raced in WR it was in Mexico and he retired on circuit. Alessio Capua also out on circuit. AlphaTauri not having a great season when it comes to qualifying, and they could both be out in Q1 very early here. So yeah, I'd say things down at the AlphaTauri garage, and certainly down at Haas and McLaren and Alpine as well. They're not going to be happy that their drivers are potentially going to be losing out early on here.
Yep, not looking good at all for some of them, as Alessio Di Capua is taking his time, just warming his tyres up, getting them in the zone. But at the minute, 29.0, the cut-off time he needs to get into the next part of qualifying. Several drivers in the pits already after that opening runs. Will we see them out again? It depends just how much of intensity there is coming from this rain, but at the minute it is relatively light. But let's see how Di Capua gets on as he heads down to that first corner. Uphill rise into it and then plunging downhill into that left turn and then rising up again before sweeping down the hill towards this tricky braking zone. Quite a high speed apex into entry for this one, into the right then the left and into the next sequence of corners. Already, as you can see in the graphic on the left-hand side, Nicholas Longue has gone for the intermediate tyre in the pits, and Di Capua has invalidated this lap, and that could spell the end of his session already, Dan.
Yeah, I'd imagine so, as Ikabayanya retires in the pit lane, so he's not going to decide to go out again. Will Lewis also retired. See, Louis Welch is just about to cross the line, and I think that puts it in the coffin for him. It's a 31.2, so I'd say that qualifying will be over for these guys. Maybe the drivers are all going to be directed to actually retire from this session, and we can get Q2 going just a slight bit quicker. Although we do have Jack West out on circuit at the moment. He is safely through into the next qualifying session in 14th position. So I'd say that Q1, it's not going to be too far from ending here, Andy.
Yeah, it's not been the most enthralling qualifying session, is it? Well, that was very quick. That was very brief. One lap for these drivers, and that was it. And it looks like the order is going to be set in stone as a result. Very similar, actually, to what we saw in Imola in Q2 in the real-life Formula 1 only last weekend, where the rain increased quite considerably, and it left several drivers out of qualifying, including both Mercedes, which I believe is the first time since 2012, actually, that they had two cars out in Q2. But that is the end of qualifying. Jack West has come into the pits to retire. Tino Nakarunen is just going to squeeze through, but everyone else out of qualifying. Benz Sabokonye out of qualifying. Iker Bena out of qualifying. Louis Welsh, Will Lewis and Alessio Di Capua all out already. As you said, the final nail in the coffin for both AlphaTauris already. Well, they barely even got started. Will Lewis and Di Capua didn't even get a time in, Dan.
No, of course, Will Lewis with that qualifying ban to his name, but Alessio Di Capua really unlucky. I believe he invalidated twice, if I'm not mistaken. We've only got 4 drivers yet to retire. I hope we can move things along, because I don't fancy sitting here looking at a pit lane for 8 minutes. I don't know about everybody else, but yeah, I'd like to get Q2 underway. I wonder if the conditions will also be the same, because surely, Andy, these drivers would want to utilize the time that they have now to maybe get some practice runs in on a set of the intermediate tire, unless they're trying to save it for the later parts of the latter stages of qualifying. We'll have to wait and see. We've only got Longue and a Capua yet to retire, and I think we're going to be sitting here for a few minutes.
Yeah, someone want to give them a nudge. Well, there's the Capua retired. Come on, Nicholas, let's get on with this. I know you're at your home race and you want to soak up the crowd, but let's get on with this, my man. Come on, retire. Well, while we wait for Nicholas Longue to retire, I think this is a good opportunity to have a word about SimStaff. Yes, Bespoke Premier Esports Staffing Solutions. Use the code WOR at checkout for 10% off. Be sure to check out SimStaff, simstaff.net to get your staffing solutions in the world of esports. Be sure to check them out. We're still waiting on Nicholas Longue to retire. I wonder what he's doing. Why would you not retire? Is he thinking about going out on the Inters?
I'm not too sure. I might see if this might not be the most professional thing to do, but I might just hop in his Twitch chat and maybe give him a little nudge to say, hey, Nicholas, you might want to retire here. He's the only one not to do it so far, and he has got the intermediate tyre fitted. We did see at the top of the screen whilst we were talking about SimStaff, DRS has been disabled, so it's firmly intermediate conditions. But no one wants to go for cycle laps. That includes Longue. He's just sitting in the pit lane at the moment.
He's happy to sit there. Well, maybe he's heading out of the car and jumping across over to the pit wall to wave at his home crowd. I'm not too sure, in a virtual sense, what he's doing. But yeah, Nicholas Longue is just going to keep us waiting for the moment. So while we do wait, let's have a look at the rundown of the order then. Tomek Paradis, P1, 128.3 on that early run on the dry tyre. And I know it's just one run, so it's not a big sample, but that's a very healthy 1.5 tenths he's got over anyone else in the order, Dan. So a good start for Tomek Paradis, and maybe that could be an early hint of what's to come later on in qualifying.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, he's clear of everyone else at the moment. You know, he's on a 28.3. Longue is the closest to him. And I believe we've actually got some activity down at the Alfa Romeo pit garage. That is Longue coming out on circuit. So he's going to be giving us a cycle lap on the intermediates. I wonder if he can give us some drifts or something. I'm not too sure what his intentions are here, but we'll have to wait and see. The Alfa Romeo out on track. He's the lone driver left in this session. And purely, this is just for Inter's practice.
Yeah, well, it's not often you see this, is it? One driver not grayed out, everyone else retired, had enough. They're away, I don't know where they're away to, they're probably away waiting on Nicholas Longue here, but clearly he feels, the championship leader with a 22-point advantage, that every single bit of practice is key here. He's going to use a set of intermediates in Q1. They're obviously expecting rain to continue throughout Q2 and Q3, otherwise there would be no reason for Longue to do this, but it's quite clear that he wants to get some wet weather running and practice in on the intermediate tyres and give his home crowd something to cheer about. The only man out there on the track, the Frenchman, is out there, and he's going to take us around this Le Castellet circuit here in France. Well, not often we see this at all, but let's see what Longue can do and give us a sighter on the intermediate tyres. But he's going to keep everyone waiting. Not maybe a crowd pleaser for everyone in chat, but yeah, fair enough. He's well within his rights to do it, Dan, isn't he?
I mean, he's got 4 minutes left in the session. Why not use it? But I think for everyone watching, if you want to go grab a snack or a drink or something, it's be a perfect time. We're not going to be seeing any improvements on laps, and we're just going to be watching Longue going around a wet circuit. Of course, one of 2 French drivers, if I'm not mistaken, on this grid today. The other one being Lenny Papinta, also into the next session of qualifying. It's got to be a special track for him, being his home race. So maybe some sentimental value here. That's why he's coming out on circuit, because he's not going to improve on this time, and he's firmly into Q2. Well,
this is a good opportunity to go for a lap around this wonderful circuit. 5.8 kilometres. And yeah, it should be a cracker. First Grand Prix here in 1971 as we go through the first sector of the lap through turns 3, 4, and now tight right-handed of turn 5, then through that first sector timing being, and as you can see, he's 2.7 down on what he did in the dry already, and now into the first DRS zone through turn 7 and down this long straight. DRS now open for Nicholas Longue, and this is where we'll see the bulk of the overtaking in this Grand Prix as he heads down towards turns 8 and 9. Again, very high entrance speed for a chicane on that left hand side through turn 9 and then turn 8, then turn 9, and now a short burst down towards turn 10. Flat out right-hander, almost reminds you of a reverse or a mirror image of 130R, you could say, as Longue goes through there now, and then into turn 11. Roller coaster ride through this right-hander, right out to the edge of the track, sweeps back in to straighten the line as best as he can, and into the corner I absolutely hate. Turn 12, really long, you have to be so patient to pick up the throttle, and then makes his way through turn 13, not really a corner on a Formula 1 car. Now into the left-hander of 14, stay tight to the inside curb, it will help your entry into the final turn, the extremely tight turn 15. Round the final corner comes Longue, the Frenchman, crossing the line now. What's it going to be? It's a 1 minute 38.3, 9.8 seconds off the pace, and that's why we've seen everyone retire from the session. No way you can improve on a damper track, Dan. Far less grip.
I wonder if he's signed some brand deal with Alfa Romeo, and that's why he's getting the sponsors out there. Of course, from last season, so it wouldn't make much sense now. But yeah, he's going to be on his slow lap now. Got 1 minute and 50 seconds left to go in Q1. Then we'll get to see some actual battling in qualifying. I wonder how this intermediate practice is actually going to help him coming into the next session of qualifying, and if we're actually going to see the wet weather. I'd imagine that if he's doing this cycle lap, then surely we are going to see some intermediates, because otherwise I don't know what he's doing. Maybe he wants the screen time. I'm unsure, but yeah, on his slow down lap through the Mistral Straight, and he's just taking it nice and easy, drinking in the French atmosphere. But he's got very British weather actually, nice and rainy.
Yeah, very, very wet conditions here in the south of France. Not something you'd usually associate with the south of France, as Dan said. Much more like the weather we have here in the UK. But Nicholas Longuet quite clearly intent on getting as much practice in as he looks to build his championship lead a little bit bigger. And every moment he can get on track and practice is vital to him. And maybe that will be an advantage over the rest of the field at this stage. But having a look at the order on the left hand side again, I'll stress only one lap. Good effort from Carter Lundy to get through quite well up in 14th and 4th place. Good lap from him.
Yeah, absolutely. And also looking at some other times that are quite impressive to me. Luke Smith being in 5th position. I think Lenny Papinta as well, of course, fighting for the championship in tier 2 at the moment. He's stepped up for tier 1 today. He's set a time of 8th fastest. But everybody, we're finally going to get into Q2 because Nicholas Longuet is retired in the pit lane, and we're going to have a comprehensive list of qualifying 1 right about now once it finishes loading.
Yeah, well, we had to wait for quite a while, but we will now get to the end of qualifying 1, and we will now move into the second part of qualifying, which I presume will lead to some wet conditions. But not often we get this situation, as we just wait for the clock to tick down to 0. And then hopefully we will have a full official results of... Okay, maybe not. Maybe we won't get it. Fair enough. Okay, game, don't run it down with us. And we'll jump straight into qualifying 2. And that rain, Dan, looks a heck of a lot heavier than it was in the last part of qualifying.
Yeah, that is quite unnerving. That might be full wet conditions. I'm seeing in the garage, I believe Tomek's got intermediates fitted. But I guess we could look on the left hand side of the screen. You see Thomas Tronha momentarily fitted the wet tyres. He's swiftly gone back to the inters. Leroy Brown has fitted the wets, gone back to inters. So I think these drivers are going to try and test the conditions in the tyre more suited to the light rain conditions. But at the moment, Andy, it's looking pretty heavy here.
Could it be another rush out of the pit lane then for one hot lap? As I say that, the rain looks like it's falling steadily already, or a lot less intensity than it was when we started. It doesn't look as heavy, and that's just over the course of 1 minute. But out onto the track, we have Tomek Paradzis, one of the men in this championship hunt. Brendan Lee was the first man out there. Let's pick him up. And it's been great to have Brendan Lee back in the league racing scene, whether it be in WR or PSGL. Of course, a very impressive win in PSGL in Singapore a couple of weeks ago. So it'd be great to have him back, isn't it? 2-time champion, of course, in F1 esports in 2017 and 2018. One of the most decorated esports drivers and most successful alongside Jarno Opmeer. 2-time champion, just like Jarno. Back-to-back defending, just like Jarno. So great to have him back, isn't it, Dan?
Absolutely, of course, a titan of F1 esports. He's been a staple in the in the scene for so long, even before the incarnation of F1 esports. He was racing, I think, back in the AOR days, before in like 2015, 2016. I'm not too sure. I'm not too familiar with those times, but certainly Brendan Lee is he's a household name in F1 league racing and F1 esports. You know, you don't look at a stream and you don't recognize Brendan Lee. That doesn't happen. You're always going to know who he is, and it's great to see him in the Ferrari, of course, one of the most iconic F1 teams, and it's suiting for one of the most iconic F1 esports drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. Brendan Lee out there at the minutes and pushing hard. So you could almost say it was a surprise, really. He left Mercedes and went to Ferrari. Looked like he was at home at Mercedes, and now, of course, driving for the Scarlet Ferrari from one giant team to another. As Brendan Lee comes across the line to start his flying lap. Now we saw, what was it, a 1:38 from Nicholas Longuet at the end of qualifying 1. Let's see how the track conditions compare now. Are they better or are they worse? As we now look at Brendan Lee attacking the first sector of this circuit here at Paul Ricard. And now braking just between the 150 and the 100 and the 50 metre board into turns 3 and 4. Now through that tight right-hander of turn 5 and through turn 6, 24.7 through the first sector for Brendan Lee as he makes his way now onto that DRS straight. We won't have DRS in qualifying in the damp conditions. Remember back to Imola in real life Formula 1, they were very cautious to remove the DRS, or bring back the DRS, sorry, in that race, and it was dry for the majority of that Grand Prix. It took them a very long time to do it, as we've got a yellow flag out there. I think we've got a spinning Haas of Lenny Pipinter. There he is, just getting going again, and the yellow flags have cleaned up. But here is Brendan Lee then, and let's see what his opening time will be in the second part of qualifying, Dan.
Yeah, just coming through now towards the final sector through turn number 11. It's a long-winded right-hander where it's a very late apex through here. And then same goes for turn number 12. A lot slower though this corner. It's a bit shorter. Very tricky corner as you mentioned earlier on. I'm not fond of it either, but in towards 13 and 14. This third sector is made up of corners that are characteristically like this, and then into the slow right-hander. Look at that, he took that in 4th gear, maximizing all the grip that he could, and then across the line for Brendan Lee. We'll see what the first time on the board is, and it's a 38.5. The Mercedes of Paragish in behind him. He's going to cross the line, but I believe he was invalidated.
Yeah, he invalidated the lap. It was a 38.6, so he was a 10th down on Brendan Lee, but he invalidated it anyway, as you touched on. Who else we got out there? Leroy Brown in the final corner, but he has invalidated his latest run. What about the other Mercedes of Tino Nakarinen? He's also invalidated the lap, so it's not going to plan for him. Liam Parnell is out there on a lap. Nope, he's on an out lap. So who else is out there? The other Red Bull, perhaps, of Carter Lundy, who of course impressed with that P4 in the first part of qualifying. So what can the man in the Red Bull do? The Canadian round the final corner, he comes now. And again, also taking it in 4th gear as we ride on board with him as he now makes his way to the line. What can Carter Lundy do? Can he go to the top? He can't. He can go second, 138.9, 4 tenths down on the effort we've seen from Brendan Lee. Jeffrey Ritchie goes P4. Jack West makes it a Ferrari 1-2 by going P2 on his lap. What about Luke Smith? Is he on a lap? No, he's invalidated it, and it's not going to plan for him. Shinaka Clay, winner last time out. He's in the final corner. What can he do? As he comes up towards the line now to complete the lap. McClavsich goes P2. Shinaka Clay goes P2 instead. Still 2 tenths down on Brendan Lee, but a fraction quicker than McClavsich.
Yeah, it seems like Brendan Lee is almost untouchable at this moment in time. As I believe Luke Smith is coming up towards the line. I think he's actually just started on a run. What about Thomas Ronha coming up towards the line now? Can he contest Brendan Lee? He gets closer than anyone else has so far, but still just about a 10th down on that time, as I believe Paragish coming back around, and there it is, 38.3, smashing Brendan Lee's time out of the water. And we'll see, is Lee going to be able to respond? I think, Andy, he's going for another push lap here. Yeah,
he's going for another push lap now as Brendan Lee. Who else we got out there in the final part of the lap? I think maybe Leroy Brown is crossing the line now. He is currently 15th, moves himself up to P8 with his first timed effort of the session. Tino Nakarinen's gone P9. As we have Liam Parnell coming to the end of his lap now. Again in 4th gear, round that final corner, heading to the line with 8.5 minutes to go. What can Parnell do? He can go P8, just in front of Leroy Brown. Now we wait for Carter Lundy, who's going again and finding 3/10 of a second on this lap. Crosses the line, goes P3. Another strong effort from him. Jeffrey Ritchie next up across the line. He goes P8. We're waiting on Nicholas Longy. He's in the final corner, but he's invalidated the lap, so it's not going to plan for him. Shinaka Clay on another invalidated lap. Alvaro Canaton, though, is in a clean lap. Up towards the line he comes now. What can Canaton do? Disappointment in BSGL during the week. That's better. Will it book his place in the next session? You think it might. He goes P2, a 10th down on the time from Tomek Paragish. Good effort there from him. What about Lenny Pipinter? He's crossing the line now and Mood goes up to P9. Nicholas Longy on another lap, but he's invalidated another one. So Longy, the championship leader, under a bit of pressure at the minute, Dan.
Yeah, he is struggling here, and there's no incentive as well. Of course, we're in the intermediate conditions, so there's no incentive to go for P11. You want to be in the final part of qualifying because you get to start on whatever tyre you want. And of course, we'll be restarting the session at the end. Just to note, as now Karinen is into the final few corners, but Brendan Lee crossed the line to go just ahead of Alvaro Caraton by 0.006 of a second. The Flying Finn is currently in the bottom 5, so now Karinen needs a good time here. He's improving by about 2.5 tenths of a second, and to cross the line here, where can he go? He goes 9th position, puts Lenny Papinta into the bottom 5. But Andy, so far in Q2, we still have 7 minutes to go. The big story is that Nicholas Longue, without a time on the board, could be at risk of going out early.
He could be. Liam Parnell tries to move into the top 10 but can't quite manage it. He's half a tenth away, moves from 13th up to 11th, so Parnell struggling for the ultimate pace. His teammate at the minute, Carter Lundy, has the better of him, but he's not on a particularly hot lap at the minute. Jeffrey Ritchie going for what I believe is a third successive push lap. No, he's not on a quick one on this occasion, but I'm sure he'll be going again. Jack West is currently P8, needs an improvement, but it's another slow lap from him. It's not a quick one. Here's Shanaka Clay though, and this does look like a quick lap. The winner last week after he got that penalty removed from the Grand Prix in Saudi Arabia, looking to reignite his championship charge. Can he go to the top of the times? He can. First man into the .2s. Shanaka Clay, P1, and at the minute in fine form going into the closing races of this season.
Clay is going to be happy with that lap time. They're improving by just under 5 tenths of a second. So that was a nice time for him to set. Still, though, not too far ahead of Tomek Paragic. And of course, Paragic's time was set earlier on in the qualifying session. The longer you go into a session, of course, especially in the wet, a dry line is going to begin to form where all the tyres have been displacing the water. So I still think that Tomek Paragic is in the driving seat here in qualifying. He's still in the pit lane at the moment, but I'd imagine he might feel he's actually safe with that lap time. We're seeing a lot of drivers now pulling into the pit lane, getting their first runs over and done with. It's been about a 10-minute constant laps from being set from everyone, but now they're going to gear up, go for a final push in Q2 to hopefully secure their spot in the final place of qualifying.
Carter Lundy going again. I don't think he'll be bitting this time round, and he is not, so he carries on. Nicholas Longue is now out there, and I believe he's on a lap. We'll pick him up in a moment after we see the end of this run from Carter Lundy, who's coming up towards the line now. Let's see what he can do. Lundy over the line, currently P7, moves himself up to P3. Great time there from him, a fraction away from going to the top of the order. He's in great form at the minute. How is Nicholas Longue getting on? Under pressure and coming into the pits. 5 minutes to go, still no lap time from our World Championship leader, Nicholas Longue. The pressure beginning to tell on our Championship leader as Canaton now goes to the top as the track looks to be improving with a 38.1.
Yep, I believe it is beginning to dry out ever so slightly as McClavchich crosses the line, and here's Aston Martin to go ahead of Shanaka Clay. So certainly the conditions are improving. It is not over for anyone in the bottom 5, currently occupied by Liam Parnell, Lenny Papinta, Jeffrey Ritchie, Leroy Brown, and Nicholas Longue, as we've just seen the time come out from Thomas Ronhart to go 3rd position. So it seems like the Williams and Aston Martins in Q2 are in fine form. But Andy, we do have some outlaps coming out now from Luke Smith and Tino Naukarinen. So these guys don't see themselves firmly into the next session of qualifying, and they're going to go once again on a set of the intermediates.
Yep, so we've got a few drivers on outlaps, as you say, and it will be another set of intermediate tyres for them. So who's the furthest round of them? Is it Luke Smith? No, I think it's Jack West. Jack West is on a lap, actually. We'll keep an eye on him. Currently P9, and let's see how he gets to the conclusion of that. So, folks, tell us in the chat who will be in the bottom 5. What do you think the cut-off time will be? To be honest, that's a difficult question because it looks like the track's improving rapidly. Look at Shanaka Clay. You can see on the left-hand side, he's in the pits, but he's fitted a set of softs. That might be a little ambitious. We'll wait and see if we can see them before the end of the session. But Jack West then, currently near the danger zone, needs to try and clamber out of it. And he does just improve to get ahead of his teammate with a 138.3. Moves ahead of Brendan Lee. The Ferraris swap round at this stage of qualifying. Who have we got in a lap at the minute, Dan?
At this moment in time, I don't believe there's anyone on a push lap, but we do have drivers about to complete their outlaps, one of them being Luke Smith, so he is going to get his final few runs out of the way in qualifying. I'm starting to notice, Andy, that the rain is really beginning to ease up here as well, and the sun is actually beginning to peek through the clouds ever so slightly, so that's maybe why Shanaka and Carter have both decided to fit the softs. They've gone back onto the intermediates and coming out for their outlap. So it's not going to be drying off in this session. But I believe, Andy, riding on board with Luke Smith, it looks like the rain has completely stopped.
That track looks dry to me. That track looks really dry. It's drying out really quickly. Well, anyone who's still in the pits, Karaton and McLavsic and Lundy, go for a late decision to fit a set of the soft tyres. We'll wait and see if they do. At the minute, they're still there in the intermediate tyres with 2 minutes to go. They're going to have to make a decision pretty darn soon, but I'm guessing they're going to go for the inters as Luke Smith continues on his way, and the track is so dry that I am almost certain he will go P1. As I say that, though, he's only improving by around a tenth of a second, but the track undoubtedly beginning to dry out. There's still that sheen to the racetrack, though. You can just see it as we ride on board with Luke Smith. So it still looks like it will be the intermediate tyre for the conclusion of the session. But Luke Smith out there at the minute, Dan, looking like he'll be going P1 as he slides the rear of the car, and that will have lost him time, and I think he's backed out of it.
Yeah, he has indeed. He's given himself enough time and I'd imagine enough fuel to go for another run. We've seen retirements in the pit lane from both Aston Martin of McLavsic and Ronha, as well as Jack West. I don't think West is going to be into the next session of qualifying at this point, though.
We've got a spinner, and that is Jeffrey Ritchie having a big moment coming out of turn number 8, or turn 7, sorry. Big moment for him, and that could be the end of his session if he can't get back round in time. So Leroy Brown is out there. Who we got in the final part of the lap? Tino Nakarunen currently on the bubble and needs an improvement, needs a serious improvement. Round the final corner he will come. He is on a 38.7 at the minute, just inside the top 10. Can he improve? He was up on the Delta when I had a look a moment ago. Nakarunen heading for the line. Can the Finn book his place in the next session? He stays P10 and did not improve. So he's in a bit of bother here. Tomek Barajas is on a lap now. What can he do? Was P5, now P2. 138.1 from him. Brendan Lee in trouble, needs to improve, doesn't, stays P9. Could he be in danger of going out? But he will get another lap in. That is the key for Brendan Lee. What about Parnell? He's on a lap as well at the minute and improving by a tenth and a half. So what can he do? We're still waiting on Longy. He's crossing the line now. Is this the moment he gets through? He's only 14th, but he's got 2 seconds to cross the line and does so to start another lap. And DRS is now enabled. So it's now or never for the championship leader, Nicholas Longy, Dan.
Absolutely, and he's got this one run currently in P14. Can Longy secure his spot into the final part of qualifying? And he's invalidated. It's qualifying over, and I believe that is all the bottom 5 confirmed here. Parnell, Pepinter, Richie, Longy and Brown all eliminated in Q2.
What a massive moment in the WOR Championship title race. 22-point lead for Nicholas Longy going into his home race, and on home soil in front of the French crowd, he has blundered, faltered here in qualifying. He's only going to start from P14 on the grid, and his championship rivals will be smiling with glee. Both Karaton and Parajas 1 and 2. Shinaka Clay through as well in P5. This is a disaster for the Frenchman on home soil. P14, big shock here in WOR tonight.
Of course, if it was in the dry, it might not be the end of the world if the likes of Karaton, Parajas and Clay had all qualified in on the set of the softs. He could go on an alternate strategy, but that is not the case. They've all set their Q2 time on the intermediate, and of course the rule is you have to start on whatever tyre you qualify on unless it's the intermediate or the wet. So these guys can choose whatever tyre they want for the start of the race. Is really going to eliminate the strategical factor around here of qualifying outside the top 10. The Frenchman now pulling sheepishly into the pit lane, and I think he's going to be he'll be kicking himself about this one.
Yep, it's an absolute disaster. A disaster for him. He bows out of qualifying, 14th on the grid on home soil. Not at all what he would have been looking for. And yes, Longy out of qualifying. That practice run he did in the previous session has done him no good at all, Dan.
No, and that is, I mean, it doesn't really affect anything, but you'd think with the practice that he had, I mean, it was only 1 lap, but it might have been all that he needed, and it's just not worked out for him. Of course, he struggled to actually get a lap down in the beginning parts of Q2. And that was really the sweet spot before it began to dry out and the intermediates became less and less competitive. It really dried up very quick. I don't believe, Andy, we're actually going to get a classification for some reason. It's happened again. It is really weird.
Yeah, very strange. First time I've ever had that issue. We usually get a rundown, a classification of the results, but unfortunately we're not getting it, folks, so we'll just jump into the next part of qualifying and see what happens. But yeah, wow, what a shock that is for Nicholas Longe. Undoubtedly the big story from that qualifying session. We touched on it, Dan. He had that warm-up lap, he had that lap in Q1 when everyone else retired. Thought it was the right decision, but in the end it was a completely well, he ended up doing his best lap then, and in Q1 and not in Q2, and validating his laps, and just could not hook it up, and out he goes. And Dan, my question is, do you think that is the pressure of leading the championship and not wanting to make a mistake? Is that what's caused that?
I think it might be, and I think this could be a season-defining moment if he's not able to get his way back up the order and maybe possibly even finish outside the points. Then it is really going to hurt his championship hunt, especially when the likes of Karaton and Parajic were at the very top end. They were 1 and 2 in Q2, so it couldn't have gone any worse for Nicholas Longe. Consolation is he did manage to out-qualify Leroy Brown, but that really doesn't make too much of a difference. He's still going to be starting outside of the top 10 and with a major task on his hands.
Yeah, let's jump into the final part of qualifying and see how much damage has been done to the championship leader here today, because he's got all of his rivals in this final part of qualifying, and if they're all up at the sharp end, he's going to potentially see a big chunk come out of his championship lead. Well, this is shaping up to be a very exciting finale to this WOR season. If Longe drops the ball here and loses a lot of points, we're going to have at least 3 or 4 drivers within a race victory of him going into the closing races, and that would be fantastic for the WOR season. Fantastic for the league and for the neutral watching, Dan, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, it's going to make for a brilliant title hunt by the end of the season, so I'm really excited to see how this all ends up. I believe we've got, including this race, 4 rounds left in this championship, so you're going to be stuck with us for a little bit longer in this season. We do have Q3 underway, and like it was in Q2, it's Brendan Lee out on circuit first on a set of the soft compound attire. Of course, the red really matching his livery, the Scarlet Red Prancing Horse, one of the most famous cars in Formula 1 history, pulling back into the pit lane, so he doesn't feel like he wants to go for that lap. Maybe it was just a little sighter to possibly just test some setup. But we do have other runners out on an out lap. I believe it's McLavchich who will put us on a run first.
Yeah, McLavchich to put us on a run. So this is the opportunity for everyone. Tell us now who is going to get pole position here tonight in Circuit Paul Ricard and here in France. Who's going for pole? Who's going to get it, Dan? I'm going to ask you, as I always do, for your pole prediction.
I'm going to go with Tomic for this one. I think he'll top the end of Q3.
Oh, that's a big mistake for McLavchich. Big spin coming out of turn 2. He's been on the pace throughout qualifying so far, but that's a big error for him, and he drops round into a spin, and the lap is ruined. But you're going for Tomic Parajic then, Dan?
Yeah, I'll go with Tomic here.
Okay, you're going for Parajic. Chat, tell us who you think is going to get pole position here in qualifying 3 at Circuit Paul Ricard. Who will I go for? Let's have a look. I will go for Alvaro Karaton. I'll go for Karaton pole position. That's my prediction. He's going to bounce back from the disappointment in BSGL during the week and take the pole. What about the time, folks? Lap time. What's the pole time going to be? Tell us in chat and tell us who you think will get the pole position as we get towards the climax of this qualifying session. So McLavchich had that spin. Tino Nakarunen is out there and on a hot lap now. Let's see what he can do. Shinaka Clay also one of the championship contenders on a lap, but Nakarunen further round it, so we'll keep an eye on him, Dan.
Yeah, now Karinen's got his teammate Parajic for this evening also in behind him, so the two Mercedes looking to set their lap times in tandem with one another, as now Karinen's just about to come into the second sector split and cross into the final part of this lap, a 49 flat through sector 1 and 2 for Tino. We'll see how he can carry this pace on. He's got a Red Bull car of Carter Lundy just in front of him, and he gets out of the way very nicely, so the Finn has just got to navigate. I believe it's 3 more corners at this rate. Here's one of them, a very late apex in towards turn number 12, riding it on the curb through turn number 13, and it's going to be a flick of the steering wheel in towards turn number 14, and it's heavy braking for turn number 15, the final corner around this circuit. And off the exit, DRS enabled for the Finn in the Mercedes, crossing the line. We'll see what the benchmark is. It's going to be a 28.5. His teammate Parajish just in behind as well. Can he best Tino Nalkarinen here as the pole comes across the line? And is it going to be quickest of all? Wow, what a time there. 28 flat.
Yeah, great time there from him. He goes quickest of all. Let's see if anyone can get near it. Shinaka Clay across the line. He does a 28.3. Wow, 3.5 tenths down on Parajish. That is an astonishing time from Tomek Parajish to open the session. No one getting anywhere near that effort. Well done to him as we now watch Luke Smith coming around the final corner. Is he going to get anyone near Parajish, or is he going to be well down as well? He's not as far down, 2.5 tenths down, but still, by esports standards and league racing standards at this level, quite a considerable margin. What about Thomas Ronhart? He crosses the line now, and he gets within range. A 28.0 from Thomas Ronhart. That's more like it. Much closer now in qualifying. So good effort from him. What about Carter Lundy, who's been on it all qualifying long, looking very strong in that Red Bull, getting himself into the final part of qualifying. How is his lap stacking up here? Can he get in amongst the heavyweights at the top of the order, the young flyers in Parajish and Ronhart, as he makes his way towards the end of the lap now, swinging the car into turn 14, the long left-hander, and into the final tight turn 15, fourth gear, maximum traction, minimum wheel spin, round the final corner. Carter Lundy going for the line. What can he do? He crosses it now and goes P5, 1 minute 28.4 from him. Brendan Lee's out there. Jack West crossing the line first though. He goes P7. Brendan Lee is on a lap as well. We'll keep an eye on him as he rounds the final corner now. The two-time F1 Esports champion crossing the line now. Brendan Lee gunning for pole position here in qualifying. Can't quite get it. 2 tenths down on Tomek Parajish at the minute. So it's first blood to the pole as things stand. McLavsic then on an outlap after that spin earlier on. What can he do? What about my pick for pole? Alvaro Caraton, this Spaniard, looking to bounce back from a poor qualifying in PSGL during the week, round the final corner. He's in the championship hunt in WOR and needs a big time here, pushing for pole. Caraton crosses the line. He's a fraction down, just under a tenth, goes P3, and we've got 3 drivers with a 28.0.
Yes, Tomek currently untouchable. Of course, we still have 5 minutes left to go in this session. I believe only Miklavcic is on a push lap at this moment in time. Of course, he's managed to survive the first sector where he had his spin. We'll see where he can compare to the likes of Parajish, his teammate Ronhart, and Alvaro Caraton, the clear-cut top 3 at the moment. They've got a big deficit to Brendan Lee and Luke Smith in behind, as Miklavcic is unfortunately invalidated, so still yet to get a time on the board in this final part of qualifying. That was looking like a pretty decent time from Primoz as well, so I think he's not going to be best pleased about that one. But they're all pulling now, Andy, into the pit lane. They're going to be gearing up for their final runs.
Yeah, and that gives us an opportunity to have a look at what people have been saying in chat. Slice has gone for a Luke Smith pole. Luke Smith or Thomas, he's saying. Mario Lopez has gone for Alvaro or Alvarito. MW has gone for Ronhart. Barney's gone for Ronhart as well. Ben Price, Shinaka Clay. Tomek Parajish says, that's a difficult one. Artoska. Sorry if I butchered that. Tomek, he's gone for. What a lap from Tomek's slice. So yeah, a lot of people going for Tomek. A lot of mixture in there. Placo Johnny's gone for Brendan to get the pole position. So with everyone in the pits at the minute, and we get ready for the final runs. Let's see what happens. I'm just going to take this quick moment while everyone's in the pits to remind everyone of this. The championship standings. Look at it right now. Longy out in Q2. Only 14th in the grid. Look at that. Parajish, Caraton and Clay and Ronhart. All 4 of them in the next part of qualifying. This is massive moments in the remainder of this season. We've got 3 rounds to go after this one. Is Longy going to be reeled in? Back to the action though, and things are going to get very tasty. We've got a car coming down the pit lane. We've got 2 cars coming down the pit lane. The first one is a Ferrari. Is it Brendan Lee or is it Jack West? I'm not too sure, but we have got a Ferrari making its way down the pit lane, Dan. It's going to be very interesting to watch how this championship will unfold, and this qualifying session is going to have a big bearing on it.
Yeah, it's Jack West out first, and I'd imagine on their outlaps, these drivers going to be revving out the engines, of course, to burn off all the fuel possible, because you need that extra time, you know, from having the lighter car. And actually, Jack West has just allowed for Tomek to pull on by. You can see if you turn the telemetry on, you'd have both the throttle and the brake inputs being applied to burn off as much fuel as possible, lighten up the car, and go as quick as you can. But currently, provisional pole for Tomek Paragic might not be set in stone. He's still got Ronhar and Karaton for company, but I'd imagine he's feeling quite comfortable at the moment.
Yeah, he is, and well, it's now an opportunity for you guys to vote in chat who you think will be on pole position. Tomek, Thomas, Alvaro, or other. Leave a comment in the chat. I'm going to tick Alvaro Karaton. That's what I said. So I'm having a look at it now. 43% of you think Tomek Paragic will get pole. 22% going for Thomas Ronhar. It's changing all the time, but at the minute, the bulk of the people in chat believe it will be a pole position for Tomek Paragic. 40-ish% of you. The other three, or the other options, around about the 20% marker as things stand. Jake Benham thinks Longay will get pole. That's funny because he's not in the session. Very funny, Jake. Very, very funny. Tino for the win, says Capel. Let's see how it pans out as we get ready for the conclusion of this session. We'll watch Paragic then. He's going to be the first man to start a flying lap. Are we going to see 1 minute 27s? Tell us, everyone in chat, you've gone for your driver to get pole. What do you think the pole time will be? How far into the 27s, if at all, will we get? What do you think, Dan?
I'm going to go with a 28.9. I think a low 9 is what Tomek Paragic will do here, because you're getting to the point where you're near perfection and you can't find too much of an improvement. But we'll see what the Polish driver can do with just about a minute left to go in this qualifying session, in towards the slaloming first sector and slowing it down to complete this this very northern part of the circuit, if I'm not mistaken. And already maybe he's going to improve further down the 0.9s, because he's already 600ths up as he comes onto the Mistral straight, where he gets a slight break in the action, accelerating to speeds of up to 318, possibly 19, 20 kilometers per hour. And into the braking zone he goes at the chicane. Tomek Paragic in fine form at the moment, currently uncontested at the top of the order ever since he set his lap time, and he is improving a further 10th through the second sector. Tomek looking on fire as he comes in towards now the final sector. It's going to be turn 11, the long-winded, slow right-hander, a late apex for the Polish driver, running it out wide, then spotting his braking zone for turn number 12. Again, another late apex, riding it on the curbs. This Mercedes car is planted on the circuit as in towards the last two corners, turn number 14 and up towards 15. The slowest part of the circuit is going to be DRS open for the Polish driver. Where can he stamp his authority? The clock has struck 0 and is provisionally pole for Tomek Paragic with a 27.748. And Andy, that is going to take some beating.
That is very, very quick. Will anyone get near it? McLavsic will be the first to try. Nowhere near it. Half a second down, but goes P5 with his opening run. Brendan Lee only manages P4. Jack West across the line. He goes up to P5. That's a great effort from him. We've got Caraton and Clay on laps. Clay can only manage P6 at the minute, so not ideal for him. Luke Smith is in the final corner. What can he do? He comes across the line now. Luke Smith looking for a top time, and it goes P3. Caraton round the final corner. Can he improve? Goes P2. Just ekes into the 127, but no one at the minute can get near Paragic. Carter Lundy's on a lap. He crosses the line now and moves up to P6. What about Nakarunen? He's over the line now, stays P10. What about Thomas Ronhar? Can he take pole? I missed it, Dan. What did he do?
I believe he did a .991, so it wasn't pole position for Thomas Ronhar, but it is a front row slot for him. How about that, though, from Tomek Paragic? Wow. The classification on the screen, almost a quarter of a second up on everybody else, and that might not seem like much, but when you get to these levels of F1 esports caliber drivers and future stars, that is that's an insane gap.
That is probably the WOR qualifying lap of the season from Tomek Paragic. 2.5 tenths up the road from Thomas Ronhar in second, and a statement of intent sent to Nicholas Longay, who's only 14th on the grid. And his nearest rival, Tomek Barajas, who's 22 points behind him in the standings, sticks it on pole by that margin. It's a sensational job from him. Ronhar joins him on the front row with Canaton in third. So 3 drivers that are chasing down Longy in this championship, filling the top 3 places. Luke Smith is 4th, Brendan Lee is 5th, Carter Lundy P6, Jack West 7th. Disappointment for Shinaka Clay, winner last time out, only manages P8 Dan, and I'm sure he will be very, very disappointed with that effort.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was into Q3 with, I believe, a 5th place time in Q2, so that's not a good qualifying by his standards, but he still has the race, and he's still within the top 10, and certainly within touching distance of the podium position, so you can't count out Shinaka Clay at any moment, and you still, even though he's far down the order, we've got to think about Nicholas Longe here.
Yeah, we sure do need to think about Nicholas Longy. Let's see how good a job he can do. No doubt about it, Dan, it's going to be a damage limitation job for him today. How many points can he claw back? He's expected to lose some from 14th in the grid, no doubt about that. How many can he claw back? That's the job for him. But before we jump into the formation lap, we need to have a word. Well, obviously we're doing a lobby reset. We'll have to wait a couple of moments. But we need to speak about that lap from Paradis. 27.7, 2.5 10 stand. That is a lightning lap from him. Would you agree, lap of the season in WR qualifying?
I can't think of anything better, if I'm completely honest. Maybe there's one lap in particular at the beginning of the season that was clear of everybody else, but for this at this point in time, I actually can't think of anything more dominant in qualifying for Tomek Paradis. That was an insane time from him. I might go through on the formation lap all the qualifying sessions of the season just to see whether that is actually the largest gap we've seen in a Q3 session. But certainly, regardless of whether it's the best time we've seen in WR this season with respectiveness to other drivers, that is still a cracking effort from Tomek.
Yeah, fantastic effort from Tomek Paradis. I do remember, again, I like to cross-reference leagues here in PSGL, a really quick time in qualifying back at Silverstone, I think it was, from Nicholas Longy, and that was a really, really impressive lap. One of the laps of the season over the 2 leagues, but that there was right up there with it. Superb effort from Tomek Paradis, one of the rising stars, and I think it's just a matter of time before he's up there challenging in F1 esports and competing at the front of that. One of the rising stars, absolutely flying, dominant on challengers, and now showing great pace here in WR. And he does have Nicholas Longy quaking in his boots now, who's only 14th on this grid. This is another good opportunity to remind you of these standings. Here they are. 4 rounds to go, including this one. We're going to Britain after here. Then we've got Spain and Brazil. Nicholas Longy, 127 points on the board, 22 ahead of his nearest rival Paradis, who's just stuck it on pole with a superb effort. Alvaro Canaton is a further point back. Shinaka Clay, then Thomas Ronhart and Luke Smith. All of these drivers in with a genuine shout of the title. Jake Benham on 70, Barry Bruneman 50, Sam Corby and Pyotr Stachilek on 37. Dan, at this stage, would you still make Nicholas Longy a strong favourite with that cushion?
Yes, I do think that for the title, I think he is still well in front, and he's still in the driver's seat. He's got firm control. I'd imagine, unless things go completely horrible for him today, he is going to get into the top 10. He's got that natural pace. He's just talented. He's put in all the practice as well. So you can't count him out at any stage. I'd imagine he is going to get into the top 10, possibly a top 5 finish if it's a spectacular drive. But I do see him losing points to the likes of Paradis and Caraton today. So it's going to be a dent in his title charge, but I do still believe that he is the favourite.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. He is indeed the favourite for it. I think today will have a really big bearing on the championship. It will have a massive bearing on how big a gap Longy leaves here with. If indeed he does leave with a gap, if he gets no points and Paradis wins, he'll be leapfrogged. So yeah, I think this will be a massive day in terms of how this championship is going to shape up. Really looking forward to seeing how it all plays out. But while we're waiting, this is going to be a good option for us while we are waiting for the lobby to reset. To speak, have a look at one of our sponsors. Yes, GridRival. Join the grid here at WR. GridRival racing has never been this fun. Be sure to visit the link that you can see on screen now or you can search World Online Racing on the app and get yourself involved in the action. It's a fantasy league app for motorsport games, and WOR have got a Formula One app at the minute on there, and it's just a Formula One league on here at the minute, and of course you can sign and buy drivers like Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, and alter it throughout the season. So it's like a fantasy league predictor and compete against the rest of the WOR community. So be sure to check that one out, folks. But Dan, big race coming up very, very shortly indeed, isn't there? And yeah, I'm looking forward to see who comes out on top. But at the minute, it's very difficult to see past that man, Tomek Perazis, especially with a lightning lap like that.
Absolutely, that was something special. I'm actually looking through at the moment through all of the Q3 sessions. So far, I've got to Canada, which was round number 6. There's been no time that has had that kind of gap. I think pretty much every qualifying session in the dry, it has been beneath 1/10. So to immediately jump to 2.5 is insane from Perazis. And I would say confirm it now. That is lap of the season.
Yeah, great effort there from Tomek Perazis. Undoubtedly the lap of the season. Great job from him as we get ready for the action. Just waiting on an invite, folks. Have you got an invite, Dan? I've not actually. Oh yes, I have. Silly me. It's been there for 4 minutes, so it's probably me that's holding things up. It was Loggy in Q1. It's me in at the end of qualifying. So let's jump in now and spectate the action as we get ready to get underway for the latest race in this season, round number 13 of what's been a marathon WOR season, an absolute cracker of a championship battle that at the minute, Dan, just looks like it's going to go the distance, doesn't it? Longy trips up here tonight, and maybe this will be very, very close, not just between 2 or 3 drivers, potentially 4 or 5.
Yeah, I think it can be a season-defining moment for the championship hunt. We'll have to wait and see. There's a lot of questions here today. We've got 27 laps to find those answers. We are just waiting for, I believe, Ikabaina to get back in the session. I'm seeing there's a vacant McLaren. We've got Jeffrey Ritchie in the session. So hopefully we can get the Spaniard into the lobby and then we can get underway very soon. I might just check the Discord chat just to see what's going along here. If they're pestering him to rejoin the session. I'm not too sure, but I guess this is what happens when we have to restart. Of course, we're not picking and choosing, as WR actually said in the live chat. We're not picking and choosing when we restart. I've got digestive in my throat from a little bit earlier, but I haven't been eating the one stream, Luke.
Yeah, looking forward to this race getting underway. But yeah, there is a tyre glitch, as you can see in chat, folks, that we've got to do a restart just to reset the lobby and clear any glitches that might be occurring. We just got to do this in all our leagues at the minute. It's just the way things are. But since the patch came in, it's been a heck of a lot better, because I know during the last few weeks it was a bit of a nightmare until a patch came out with a lot of desyncs going on. But I think it's led to a tyre glitch coming in, which is minor. We can deal with that. Just a quick lobby reset, folks. So don't go anywhere. We will have this race coming up in a few moments' time. I believe all 20 drivers are now in the lobby, and we will be getting this Grand Prix underway in a few moments' time. We do have a pole position for Tomek Perazis with Thomas Ronhar alongside, and Alvaro Caraton in behind in P3. Big night in this championship battle. I see Cameron Bennett asking in the chat, is that a picture of Alonso behind me? Yes, it is a picture of Fernando Alonso, in case you're wondering. Big Alonso fan myself, so yeah, eagle-eyed viewer there, Cameron Bennett. That is indeed Fernando Alonso behind. But Dan, really looking forward to it. Should be a cracker. What can we expect from Nicholas Longy? How far up the field do you expect him to get? You said you'd expect him to get into the points, but how far into them, Dan?
Well, I said that I wouldn't be too surprised with the top 5, but it is certainly going to be tricky for Nicholas Longy, of course. Our championship leader. He's not a championship leader for no reason. He's going to have that pace to climb through the order. We'll just have to wait and see. Of course, drivers that are sort of in the lower end position of the top 10 are not difficult drivers. They are. I didn't say that. They are very difficult drivers to overtake. I got my words wrong again. You got the likes of Liam Parnell, Tino Nakarinen, and Shanaka Clay. All 3 of those guys have been in F1 esports in the past and in the present as well. So it is very tricky, and in the future, might I add. But it is going to be very difficult for Nicholas to get by them. We'll just have to wait and see, though. I believe we are finally, though, loading into this lobby. We're going to get this race that started 27 laps of the French Grand Prix.
Well, I'm going to lock the commentary box door, Dan, because the way you started that sentence there, I thought you were going to be paid a visit by a few of the drivers in there outside the top 10, but thankfully, thankfully, yeah, you corrected that one. I was a bit worried there, but they're certainly quicker than us, aren't they? But yeah, looking forward to this race. We're about to get underway, folks. It is round 13 of the championship. It is the French Grand Prix, and yes, let's jump into that now. A massive race in the championship fight. Here it is then, World Online Racing, the French Grand Prix, here from the Castellet at the wonderful Circuit Paul Ricard. Season 12 action here, round 13 of this championship. Could be a massive moment in this championship battle, and here is the circuit. What a beautiful venue it is, plenty of runoff area around it. Kieran Lutt is the most successful driver at Paul Ricard with 3 wins. He's the only driver to take more than 1 win around the Castellet circuit. Here is the track, 5.8 kilometres, 3.6 miles and 15 turns. We've got 2 DRS zones, 1 between turns 7 and 8 and 1 down the start-finish straight around this magnificent circuit in the south of France. We had rain yesterday in qualifying. Here is the championship standings going into it. Nicolas Longuet on top, Tomek Paradis in second, but Longuet starts from down in 14th place, and he's got work to do to hold on to that championship advantage. There are your previous winners here in the circuit in WR at the French Grand Prix, and here is some of the best action from previous races. Shadow's late lunge down the inside in Tier 1 in Season 9, getting the job done almost on that occasion. Great action as always here. And what about this? Ronhart battling side by side, a double overtake into this high speed right-hander round the outside of one and into turn 11, round the outside of another. Epic stuff from Ronhart, who of course is starting this race from second place tonight. It should be a cracker. The formation lap is now underway, and this is going to be a very exciting race. Wet conditions in Q2, which means everyone will have free tyre choice. Let's have a look at that tyre choice now, Dan. And unsurprisingly, the bulk of the field have opted for a set of the medium tyres, although there are some on the hards and softs.
One of them being Luke Smith. In 4th position on a set of the hard compounder tyre. He's going to drop like a stone in water down the grid, but I'd imagine he's going to be able to make that up later on in the Grand Prix. And interestingly enough, Ben Zabakonye has opted for a set of the soft compound of tyre. That is a very out there choice for the Hungarian. He's going to be quick in the early stages of this race, and starting right behind Nicolas Longuet could cause some issues for our championship leader.
Yep, very interesting how things are going to pan out here. Should be a cracker, as we've got some real mix-up in the tyres from some drivers. Luke Smith, the big standout in the top 10. Many drivers from 15th down opting for the hard tyres, as we touched on as well, and one on the soft. But no doubt about it, the medium tyre has been the preferred choice by many. So, how can Nicolas Longuet get on home soil? One of 2 Frenchmen in the field, Lenny Pipinter being the other. Let's see how this pans out for him. 22-point lead in the driver's standings, under pressure on home soil, with his rivals filling the top 3 spots, and another in 8th place in Shinaka Clay. Big moment in the championship on home soil for Nicolas Longuet. What will happen here in France as they end the formation lap? Tomek Paradis, the Polish Eagle, the youngster, moves into his pole position slot. Thomas Ronhart lines up alongside him then on that front row. Mercedes and Aston Martin in those top places. Alessio Di Capo at the back of the grid, the last man to roll into his slot now as we get ready for 27 laps of racing here tonight. Here come the lights then. The 5 red lights are coming on, and when they go out, we'll be racing in the Castellet. Lights out, away we go, and it's going to be Paradis leading from pole. Ronhart tries to pull alongside, but Paradis, like in qualifying, has a brilliant start and will lead into turn 1. One of the Ferraris there, Brendan Lee, having a look up the inside through turn 1 and gets it done. P4 for him ahead of Luke Smith as they file their way down the hill towards the braking zone of turns 3 and 4, and we're actually 3 wide in the background there. Carter Lundy involved, Shinaka Clay looking to make progress, and Bradley needs to, down in P8 at the minute. And meanwhile, Nicolas Longuet is going backwards. He's down in 15th place as things stand. We've got a yellow flag out there, not sure why. Nakarunen has now dropped to the back of the field, Dan.
Yeah, I believe there was a slight bit of desync there that unfortunately saw him spinning around. But indeed, Nicolas Longuet has dropped down the order. He's now down into 15th position. This is disastrous for his title. He's trying to look up the inside of Louis Welch, but he just can't find a gap at this point in time at the end of the Mistral Straight. Meanwhile, though, at the sharp end of the order, it's been the perfect start for Tomek Paragic. However, he is being kept humble by Thomas Ronhart in behind, and once the DRS gets enabled, surely the Dutchman is going to be all over the back of the Polish driver.
Yeah, we'll see how it all pans out. So plenty of action here on this track at the minute. Nicolas Longuet then losing ground, and that's despite Nakarunen, who was in front of him in the field, going for a moment. So incredible how this has panned out as we watch Ronhart round the final corner, tucked up behind Tomek Paragic, crossing the line to start another lap. And Sabo Konye is making so much ground. He's up to 11th already. We anticipated he might on the soft tyres, but he's not hanging around. Already up to P11 as we watch the leaders funnel their way through the end of the first lap and on to lap 2. Paragic still holding his lead over Thomas Ronhart. Let's have a look at the position changes. It's all up 1 and down 1 in the top 10. But the big mover, of course, as we said, up 5 places is Sabo Konye. What a lap he's had. Up 5 places. Louis Welch is up 4 as well, as he now makes it 6 places as wide goes Parnell, and Sabo Konye makes another move up and is into the top 10.
Yeah, it seemed like Zabakonye sort of barged him out of the way there. I don't think Louis Welch is going to be too pleased about that one. He might come back at the Haas car down the Mistral Straight and in towards the chicane here at turn number 8, and he can't get close enough. No DRS, of course, enabled at this point in time. They're all bunching up down from 11th position to the back of the order. It seems like the race is already sort of being split into 2 halves, the top 10 and the bottom 10, and that is really going to hurt Longuet if he wants to actually get back into this race later on. It is really going to be sour for him, as can Liam Parnell get back up the inside of Zabakonye? Not quite, and I'd imagine the Hungarian is going to begin to close to Michalczyk in front.
Yeah, plenty of action going on in that midfield at the minute, but yeah, Michalczyk will be being reeled in pretty soon, you would feel, as things begin to sort themselves out. Let's go back to Longuet, the championship leader in the wars at the minute, down in 15th place after a shocking qualifying session on home soil, and at the minute not making any ground whatsoever as his championship rivals lead the way. Paragic, Ronhart and Caraton all at the minute on course to not only eat into the lead but overtake him in the case of Tomek Paragic. Longuet has work to do here today in France, and he needs to make some moves now as the DRS is now active as we move up the field to Jack West. Luke Smith running in 5th, only lost 1 position, and I think he'll be relatively satisfied with that given he's on the hard tyre, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely, it's just about keeping up with Brendan Lee in front of him. He's 6/10 adrift from the Ferrari. He's in a Ferrari sandwich at the moment with an Alfa Romeo filling as in towards the chicane they go. No moves being made at the top of the order, possibly further back behind we could see some overtakes. Doesn't seem like it. I think they're all settling at the moment into a DRS train where it's very difficult to overtake one another, but possibly Jeffrey Ritchie, I thought, was getting close to the rear of Liam Parnell. Seems like he's backed off in towards turn number 10. And into 11 they go. It is still Paragic leading comfortably ahead of Thomas Ronhart, still within DRS threat though, so it's not going to be too helpful for the Polish driver having that Dutchman in his slipstream, but he can't worry about that now. He's just got to run his race, Andy.
Yeah, absolutely, and this will frustrate Nicolas Longuet even more, the fact that everyone is within 1 second of each other, and the DRS train, as you touched on, Dan, is really going to make it difficult for him to make any progress. So let's see how it all pans out, but this is really getting close now as Ronhart begins to reel in Paragic, due fastest lap of the Grand Prix, and with the DRS active, it shouldn't be too much of a surprise that he's reeling him in as we now watch them go through turns 3 and 4. Alvaro Caraton just keeping a watching brief in behind as things stand, but Thomas Ronhart getting ready to potentially line up Paragic. I suppose this would be good news if they swap position for Nicolas Longuet, because Paragic is the closest challenger to Longuet, the most dangerous threat. So here comes Ronhart then, he's gaining, and we can look at the telemetry. He's got the DRS open, no ERS, and he's going to power past him with relative ease without using any of his ERS battery. New leader here on lap 4, Ronhart passes Paragic for the lead of this Grand Prix.
And I don't think that Parajic really wanted to fight that too much. He's probably doing him a slight favour. Of course, in following in the DRS and the slipstream of the car in front means you're actually going to be saving your resources, saving the tyres and saving your battery. But even so, he's getting very close to the rear of the Aston Martin, not letting him get too comfortable in front. As on lap number 4, we've had a change for the lead as they all still follow along in a DRS train. This is one of the only instances, I think, this season where all 20 drivers have been able to keep within 1 second of the car in front, and we've got a fully fledged DRS train here.
Yep, absolutely. Everyone now is within 1 second of each other all the way down the field. And the other concern for Nicholas Longuet, which we've not touched on yet, is right behind him. He's got 2 hard tyre runners that could be a real threat to him later on in this Grand Prix. So even if he is moving forward towards the points at some stage, he will have cars behind him who could be on a faster tyre, providing a very, very dangerous threat to him. So, you know, Longuet will not have it all his own way as he tries to come through the field. And, well, at the minute, he's not made any ground at all. He's actually lost a place. So, at the minute, things not looking good at all for the championship leader. As we're on lap 5 now, as Parajic is thinking about coming back, he'll get the DRS open, he'll get close, but I don't think he's anywhere near close enough to think about a move. What about further down the order? Brendan Lee within 3/10 of Alvaro Carleton, but not going for a move there either. Everyone's still firmly within a second of each other, and at the minute it's a bit of a possession in that DRS stream with no moves being made on this lap, as Brendan Lee has a little dabble of his ERS to close in Carleton, but no more than that, and they stay as they were as Parajic gets ever closer to the back of Thomas Ronhard as they sweep into turn 11, again getting very close through that corner, but not close enough to think about making a move. The French Grand Prix, Dan, always a very tactical race in league racing and in esports. You find they always wait to the very last laps to make their moves. It's always a case of being second in the queue to the last lap, isn't it?
Yep, and I think that is going to entail that we're seeing something like this for a majority of the race, unfortunately. But possibly we could see Alvaro Carleton or Brendan Lee try to overtake because Carleton seems like he is trying to get by Parajic. He's closing ever so slightly down this main straight, as is Brendan Lee. They're following all within the DRS and slipstream of one another, but since they all have access to the luxury of DRS, it sort of cancels out the effect of it, so it's not working out in anyone's favour at the moment. The only driver really vulnerable at this point in time is Thomas Ronhard, unless someone makes a mistake, and we could see that down through turn number 7, where it's a really tricky traction zone through here. Seems like they've all managed to get through very nice and tidily, but Brendan Lee is beginning to close to the rear of Alvaro Carleton. But again, Andy, with the DRS train in play here, it's just meaning no overtakes are made.
Yep, no overtakes at all. Shinaka Clay, though, very close to the back of Carter Lundy as they go into turns 8 and 9. Is he maybe thinking about setting up a move here on the young Canadian? Let's wait and see as he makes his way out of the corner, and he is indeed lining it up here. Shinaka Clay, one of the championship contenders after a poor qualifying. Up the inside, he goes into turn 10, and that's a crucial move in his championship push. He passes Carter Lundy and gains some ground on his rivals. A big move there for the Williams driver. He's into the top 7.
Yep, it was clean and tidy from Shinaka Clay, and fair play to Carter Lundy. He didn't put up too much of a fight because there is no real point at this stage in the Grand Prix. You can't win the race on lap number 6. It's all about playing the long game here, but I think it is smart for Shinaka Clay to at least put himself in a more favourable position later on in the Grand Prix. Of course, not everything is set in stone at this point as we cross over towards lap number 7. Still got quite a while until these drivers are going to start to think about a pit stop. Possibly we could see Zabakonyi into the box in the next few laps, but I'd imagine, Andy, we're going to continue to see this for a few more runs. But at the moment, Alvaro Carleton looks like he's closer than he has ever been before on the back of Parajic, following in the dirty F through this turn number 7. A loss of downforce is very tricky to handle, and that the understeer is playing into effect, and that means no one can get an opportunity to overtake down this back straight.
Yeah, there's just holding station as things stand here in the French Grand Prix, round 13 of this WOR season, with the championship really getting very interesting, with championship leader Nicholas Longuet with a 22-point advantage going into this race, down in 15th place on home soil and not making any progress whatsoever. Started in 14th and is not making ground as we watch Parajic get ever closer again to the back of Thomas Ronner. I think De Capua and Will Lewis have swapped positions further down the order for 17th and 18th place. But at the minute, what's your early assessment, Dan, of Nicholas Longay's first 7 laps? Will he be happy or a bit frustrated? I think it will be the latter.
Absolutely. I tipped him to get in towards the top 10, and unfortunately he's gone backwards here. It has really been a dreadful start for Nicholas Longay. Almost worst case scenario. He's now mired in a DRS train and a good few cars off the back of the top 10, and so it's not working out for the Frenchman. Still got a long race though, still 20 laps here. He's in towards the first sector. They all file. Once again, it seems to be a common characteristic of the first sector. They all bunch up through here, and then they immediately spread out through turn number 7 and onto the back straight, the Mistral straight. Still, it is Thomas Ronhard leading from Paracic, but Paracic is actually using up some of his overtake, and he's beginning to close onto the back of the Aston Martin car, and in towards the braking zone he goes to the inside line. Well, who's going to meet the braking zone first? It's going to be Ronhard, staying ahead of Tomek Paracic. Alvaro Caraton trying to have a look into this fight as well, but that could be early signs of these guys getting slightly frustrated at one another, maybe not following to the pace that they want.
Yeah, Shinaka Clay, look at this, going up the inside. He's already done this to Carter Lundy, and he's now trying to do it to Jack West. He knows he needs to make progress here. He's down the inside, and now he moves into the top 6. Jack West tries to hang it round the outside. He gets squeezed out onto the curb, and now into turn 12. We've got some great racing between them. Shinaka Clay now tries to hold it round the outside. Through turn 13 they go, and into 14. Great stuff between them, but Jack West holds on. Clay will not give this up. He's now on the inside for turn 15. Don't damage the wing. Oh, so close, as we now have a pit stop from Chabot Conye. He finally makes that top stop, but here comes Shinaka Clay, desperate to make ground, Dan, but at the minute can't quite do it.
Yeah, Jack West ran really wide out of turn number 50, and I think there was a slight tap between himself and Shinaka Clay. He's managed to hold on to that position. I don't think the Williams driver will be best pleased at the conduct there, as Nicholas Longay finally finds an overtake. He gets by on Louis Welch, and now he's P13 after Zapaconye's pit stop. So at least he's making up some ground in this Grand Prix. It's not much, but it is still something as they file on to the Mistral straight once again. Jack West utilising the ERS, and he's closing to the rear of Luke Smith down this back straight, and into the braking zone they go. Doesn't seem like he's any closer to get up the inside, as same thing goes for Tomek Paracic. So finally on lap number 9, Andy, they're beginning to get their elbows out.
Yeah, they're beginning to squabble, beginning to fight over some positions here. Liam Parnell, the first man to drop out of a DRS zone or detection from someone else, and that will leave him prey to the likes of Richie, Pipinta and Longay. But Longay himself not even within a second at the minute, or just within a second of his fellow countryman Lenny Pipinta. So this might be the opening for Longay, the fact that Parnell has dropped out with the second window. So that will that make him prey and allow Longay, Pipinta and Richie to file through? We'll have to wait and see. This could be the opening that Longay's been waiting for. He's had to be patient. He's still outside the points. He's only P13, and the laps are ticking by, and we're at 1/3 distance here, and he's still languishing down in 13th place as we watch them start the 10th lap here. It's still Ronhard in the lead, Paracic second, and Caraton very close to the back of the duo at the front. Brendan Lee hanging in there too, but you've got to hand it to Luke Smith on the hard compound tyre, right within range, and could be a serious threat for the victory here.
It could be the dark horse come the end of this Grand Prix. We'll have to wait and see what the Alfa Romeo can do. It's certainly going to help them, of course, leading the Constructors' battle. It's going to help them if he can snatch a potential podium or maybe even a win in this race as they file on to the Mistral straight once again. Jack West is closing to Luke Smith, and he's going to be drawing alongside into the braking zone. Not quite. So they're all, again, with the DRS concertinoing up together, but not quite close enough to make any moves stick at this point in time. It seems like the top 6 are all the ones that are the most competitive at this point. I'm seeing them all trying to make the moves and find a way to weave through the cars, as here comes Paracic close towards turn number 11, but not quite going up the inside of Ron Haas. On lap number 10, he continues to follow in behind.
Yeah, so let's have a look at the battery there. Tomek Paracic up in the 90s Thomas Ronhard down in the 70s at the minute. By leading the race, of course, you do drain a lot more of your battery. You don't get the DRS, so you have to try and compensate that by using some of the battery. Jack West very close to the back of Luke Smith. Is he going to think about a move here? Oh, I think he did have a little sense about going for it and couldn't quite manage it. Jack West then round the final corner, crossing the line, not close enough for a move, going down towards turn 1. But it is getting very interesting. So let's think about Luke Smith here and the situation. We saw last week he tried to help Nicholas Longay out by moving aside, for him, but not for Jarno Opmeer. As we look at Lundy behind that, that was Shinaka Clay thinking about a move there on Jack West. But we saw Luke Smith deliberately move aside for Longay last week and not for Jarno Opmeer to try and help him win the race. It was all in vain in the end, as Longay got caught on the outside of Tomek Baradzes. But it looks like Luke Smith's intentions this week is to try and win the race and take points off some of Longay's rivals, doesn't it? By going the alternate strategy. As we've seen a move for the lead, Baradzes has retaken Ronhard into turns 8 and 9.
Yeah, he's got back into P1. He's beginning to utilise some of the battery as well. But you're completely right about Luke Smith. I think he's going to think selfishly today because his teammate is nowhere to be seen in the fight for the win, and I don't believe that is going to change at any point in this Grand Prix. It's going to be damage limitation for Nicholas Longay. That's going to unleash Luke Smith to do whatever he wants. He's not going to be playing the rear gunner like he did last week. He's going to take every advantage he can, and surely on lap number 11, Andy, those hard tyres are beginning to phase in, and those mediums are starting to wear out. They've still got a little bit of life left in them, but Luke Smith is certainly going to be the biggest threat in this Grand Prix, and I'd imagine he's going to begin to close on Brennan Lee and hound the rear of the Ferrari.
Yeah, absolutely. So things are getting interesting there. Things are getting interesting here as well. The championship leader makes his move, passes his fellow countryman Lenny Pepinter and into P12, and that will get the home fans happy because he's now beginning to make some of the ground we said he might make. We expected him to make. So Longay now up to P12, and we said that if Parnell and Ritchie dropped off the back of the others out with DRS, that might open up an opportunity for Longay, and it has. He's got past Pepinter. Let's have a look at his battery. It's down at 64%, so you can see he's trying to use it and trying to hassle and harry and get through the field. He's using it again. Next up for him, Liam Parnell. Is he going to try and make the move down the straight? The problem he'll have is Liam Parnell will also get a use of the DRS, and he might go for the move on Jeffrey Ritchie. He does. He's up the inside. Longay tries to follow through and does so. Another key move for the Frenchman, Dan.
That was brave up the inside on Jeffrey Ritchie, but it's worked out for him. Ritchie didn't seem like he wanted to cut them off, and Nicholas Longay makes out the position. Finally, he's starting to get into a rhythm in this race and trying to come back at this point, but he's still 2 seconds off the back if you're discounting Liam Parnell here. The train in front is 2 seconds ahead. It'll be difficult as they're all following within DRS of each other, and a pit stop for all of them is looming at this point. So he can't get too complacent, Longay. He's got to find his pace, got to keep this rhythm stable, and surely he'll be within that top 10 train very soon.
Yeah, we'll see how he gets on. Shinaka Clay and Jack West, they've been battling ferociously in this race on a couple of occasions. Shinaka Clay actually to look up the inside into turn 11 there, and the door was almost slammed shut by Jack West as they go into the first corner. He really is getting impatient as Longay's now got ahead of Parnell, unseen by us on our screens. Into the top 10 he goes as we now watch Shinaka Clay get ever closer to Jack West. Is he going to think about a move? No, not quite, as we can now shuffle back to Longay and see him there trying to get within that 1 second window. And if he can do that, he will bring himself into play in this Grand Prix, Dan, won't he?
Yeah, he's already within 1.5 seconds off the back of McLavchik, so he's made up about 5/10 on the train in just a space of 2 sectors. Got a penalty for Ben Zabakonye. It's not going to help him as he's a long way off at the moment. Of course, starting on the soft, pitting on to the hards. He's got a lot of ground to make up in this race. You saw the amount of time that Longay actually lost down that main straight, or that back straight there. It was about 3/10 without the DRS for him. So really, it is negatively impacting him in this race that he's not caught up to these guys yet.
And Shinaka Clay getting closer again, thinking about that move as the leaders. Oh, is that Brendan Lee going a bit wide? I think he did there. The leaders concertinating right up, and Brendan Lee now maybe thinking about some moves. As we get closer to this pit stop window, it is beginning to appear like some of these drivers are getting a little bit more racy now and trying to get to the front of the field. Anyone thinking about a pit stop yet? Not quite, too soon for anything like that as Parajas, Ronhar and Canaton make their way round the final corner in positions 1, 2 and 3 with this man, Brendan Lee, right behind them as well. Longue still not within that 1 second window, but he's getting closer. Now only 1.3 off Primoz Miklavsic, and when he gets within that window, he will be able to get towed along by the rest of them as we see another move further down the order. Oh, missed it, wrong car. There it is there, Papinta getting ahead of Richie, and Richie now trying to fight back. Is he going to think about a move into turn 3 and 4? It would be brave, and he does not decide to go for that. He stays where he is as we go back to the action at the front then.
Yep, it is still Tomek Parajas leading the way from Ronhar in behind. We'll see if Shanaka Clay has anything to say to Jack West at this point, who's beginning to drop ever so slightly off the back of the train as Alvaro Caraton is looking to go down the inside. It's actually Ronhar going around the outside the long way round on Tomek Parajas, and he's made the move stick. Oh, a little bit of contact between Caraton and Lee there. It seems like he's unscathed in that Ferrari car, but Thomas Ronhar takes the lead. Oh dear, that's Lee. He's off the circuit. Something has happened to that Ferrari, and I think that might have been a wheel glitch there.
Wow, that is a disaster for Brendan Lee. The front wing has been torn off his car.
Yeah.
Oh, he shouldn't be doing that. Should not be doing that, Brendan.
It's his wheel. His wheel's completely screwed.
Fair enough, fair enough. Wheel completely screwed for Brendan Lee. And that might bring out a safety car, and that could make things interesting. So hopefully it is just a case that it's his wheel that's caused issues there, and that's not a frustration from Brendan Lee, but it did appear that that is the case, as Dan rightly clarified, and hopefully we won't have any safety car, because I'm enjoying how this race is shaping up at the minute as Brendan Lee retires from the Grand Prix. Very unfortunate, and I've got to say, I think everyone else, well, Nicholas Longue will be happy about that. That's one less driver he'll need to overtake against his championship contender, so that will please him. He's up to 9th now, and he is beginning to limit the damage being done here, isn't he?
Yep, and that is a big hitter that is actually out of this race now, and it is very unfortunate. I do feel for Brendan Lee that he is eliminated from this Grand Prix. I'm probably gonna bring up his stream on my other monitor here just to check what has actually happened with the Ferrari man, because he doesn't seem too pleased. Here comes Parajas once again, closing to the rear of Thomas Ronhar. He can't quite make the move stick. He can't get up the inside. Surely though, Andy, on lap number 15, these mediums are beginning to feel the wear, and he will these guys have got to think about a pit stop.
Yeah, just some clarity there in the chat. Wheel disconnection and his camera changed, so he could not see where he was going. So very unfortunate there for Brendan Lee, and I will retract that. It was not a deliberate retirement from him, as Luke Smith now begins to make some moves, and he passes Alvaro Caraton and moves up to 3rd place. The hard tyres beginning to work their magic now, and are the mediums beginning to suffer? So, Luke Smith, this is your moment. Can he get to the helm of the field? Can he win this race here tonight in WR and bring himself back into the championship hunt? He's probably one of the least likely of the top 5 or 6 to win it, but he is, at the minute, looking good for this race at least. Very strong.
Yeah, I think I do want Luke Smith to win this race at this point. Maybe that's personal feelings there, but all I'm seeing is he's slight bit laggy. Hopefully that doesn't remain a factor in this race, but surely I want him to win this race, you know, just for a personal feeling. It's been a tough journey for him on this game. A lot of allegations thrown his way. He's risen above them, and he's competing still at the very top level as he closes to the rear of the top 2. And surely this top 3, actually, Andy, of Thomas Ronhar, Tomek Parajas and Luke Smith, you've got to say, maybe 1 or 2 years down the line, this is going to be an F1 esports grid.
Yeah, and this is why we love league racing, WR, PSGL, whatever it may be, because this is where you get to see the rising stars. This is what the top esports teams look at. This is what they all do. They scout, they watch all the drivers coming through, and these are the stars of the future, and that's what we love about league racing here in WR. And as Dan quite rightly points out, these names, remember them: Ronhar, Parajas, Smith, they will all be in the future and in the minds of some of these top esports teams, as we watch Luke Smith get ever closer to the back of Tomek Parajas, but can't quite find the move. But there's no doubt about it, he's got the bit between his teeth as things stand, and Luke Smith is making very good progress. And Caraton, I think, would like to see him get ahead of Parajas and Ronhar so that he can stay with those guys on a similar strategy. So can Luke Smith get that move done on lap 17 out of 27 with 10 laps to go here? We're still waiting on pit stops from all of these drivers. Very rare we have no pit stops at this stage. Only a few drivers have been in the pit lane. So Luke Smith getting closer and closer to Parages, and you feel, Dan, we might see a move or two on this lap from Luke Smith.
We'll have to wait and see, and his best opportunity is going to be down in towards the chicane at the end of the Mistral Straight. He's got to get a good exit here and close up to the rear of Tomek Paragic, as here they go down this back straight. ERS being deployed for both Tomek Paragic and Luke Smith as they close the rear of Ron Hart. Paragic, he blinks, he goes to the inside and retakes the lead of this Grand Prix. Luke Smith not quite close enough to find an opportunity on the weakened Aston Martin, but I'd imagine, Andy, they're all using their ERS. They plan to pit this lap as here comes Luke Smith, closing, gaining. He's gaining so much. He's within 1/10 of a second off the back of Ron Hart, and he could look to the outside in towards turn number 11. It's a ballsy move. He switches it back and goes down the inside. Can he make this move stick as they're wheel to wheel on exit? It's going to be the long way round in towards turn number 12. He has to back out there, but fair play to him for trying there.
Yeah, great effort there from Luke Smith. Great fighting between the pair. Great respect showing. And now Parages blinks. He pits. Ron Hart follows him in. And now Luke Smith will carry on in that hard tire. How long will he stretch it? How far will he go before he moves onto a set of the soft compound? Things are about to get very interesting here in WOR tonight as Luke Smith chases that victory. Alvaro Carreton now moves into second as we're seeing a flurry of activity in the pits. Parages and Ron Hart moving on to the soft tyre. Longuet has also come into the pits. Let's see how he gets on as he moves to the softs as well.
Yep, they're all going to file out seemingly in order. I think Tomic's been able to clear about 0.8 of a second to Thomas Ronhar, and Shanaka Clay a further almost 2 seconds behind. So the pit stops have caused some slight gaps to be opened up between all these drivers.
Yeah, so pit stops there, opening it up as you say, and not ideal for Shanaka Clay as he's now behind Sabo Conye, and not only that, he's got Nicholas Longuet right behind him as well, and here it is, the action now. You can see it. Shanaka Clay desperate to clear the Hungarian drivers. They make their way through turns 7 and 8, and Longuet is just waiting to pounce in behind. We can load up the telemetry here. He's picking up the DRS, and he's closing in. Shanaka Clay's already alongside, and now Longuet's through as well. He's right behind Shanaka Clay. Thinks about a move, but he's not close enough. And there you go, Longuet right back in play with that early stop.
Yeah, Nicholas Longuet, he could still be within a chance.
Sorry, Dan, go on.
Oh, it's Cartalundi, I think, getting past Jack West, and they're all fighting it out. I'd imagine they're pulling into the pit lane here. Yeah,
pulling into the pits anyway, but it was getting very interesting. He's trying to pass him on the way into the pit lane as he ghosts. Well, that's opportunistic from Jack West. He and Cartalundi battling like crazy there, Dan. That's what it's all about. Very competitive stuff. As Luke Smith, our race leader, comes off the hards and moves to the soft tyre.
McCluff did the same as well. They almost went into the back of each other, but luckily the ghosting system came into play as Luke Smith coming out of the pit lane now. The two leaders coming down the main straight. We'll see where they file out. How has the undercut worked out for them as they all come onto this main straight? I think Nicholas Longuet is clearing Shanaka Clay in behind and goes around the outside in towards turn number 1. So immediately in this pit stop phase, Nicholas Longuet has gone from being in a lower end top 10 position to now a net P4.
Well, he's cleared 2 of his championship rivals ahead of Shanaka Clay and Alvaro Carreton. Disaster down at Williams. Longuet has made it work, and not only that, Luke Smith, who we've seen earlier on in the season in the last race in Saudi Arabia, acted as a rear gunner for Nicholas Longuet. Will he do the same here? Let his teammate through and play and try and hurt Shanaka Clay and Alvaro Carreton. That could be interesting if that is the case, but I feel Luke Smith's got a better chance of winning it though.
He's 1.5 seconds off the back of Ronhar and Parages. By the way, those two have swapped order as, Parages doesn't seem too happy about it. He closes the rear of Ronhar in towards turn number 11, stays behind for the time being, but if they begin to fight, surely the two Alfa Romeos are going to be closing up very soon.
You're absolutely right, Dan. Things really beginning to take shape here on lap 19 out of 27. As we can see, the net leaders, or they will now become the leaders with Parnell and Welsh in the pit. So it will be Ronhar leading, Parages second, Smith third, and Nicholas Longuet fourth. Smith and Longuet within DRS now of each other, and not only that, Smith within DRS of these two as Parages gets really close into turn 1, but not close enough to make that move on Ronhar. So let's have a quick restock here and have another look at the situation here in terms of the battery. 65% for Paradis, only 40% for Thomas Ronhart, so he's in a bit of a vulnerable position here. Luke Smith though, look at that. He is really running low on battery, and that could hurt him severely, Dan.
Yeah, it is not going to be good. 17% for Luke Smith. He has managed to get within DRS range of these drivers. And he's got 1 lap fresher tyres, so that could be some sort of consolation, as there goes Parajic going back up the inside of Ronhart. These two been swapping and changing throughout the entirety of this race. It doesn't seem like either of them actually wants to lead at this point.
Yep, absolutely. All happening here. Jack West now ahead of Sabo Konya in that fight for 8th and 9th as he's dropping like a stone on those hard tyres. He's been eating up as now Primoz Miklavzic breezes past, and Iker Bena won't be far away either. It's not working out for the Hungarian on the hard tyre, who tried a completely different strategy. He's sliding a little bit there, and that's going to open the door for Pena up the inside through 11. That's opportunistic, that's brave, can't quite find a way through, and he remains behind the Haas driver for now as Jeffrey Ritchie, his teammate, comes in to steal the place. He's been mugged, and in comes Lenny Pipinter as well to take the place as well. Incredible. The Haas and the McLaren drivers fighting like crazy here at La Castellet.
Yeah, and it's still not over because they're filing it out onto the main straight, and it's just managed to end out here. But Iker Baena really been sold for a mug, as you said, as there goes Miklavcic getting past Jack West for P8 on the road. Both these guys with penalties to their names. Meanwhile, at the top of the order, they're all once again within DRS. The top 6 closing in on each other, and possibly I think the top 6 in the championship, all following within one another. Aside from, I believe, Jake Benham, who's not here today, as Tomic Parajic still clear ahead of Ronhart, and into the braking zone they go. Seems like the Dutchman gets close, but not close enough. He'll continue to follow in behind and try and charge that battery up.
Yeah, still all happening here between these McLaren and Haas drivers. Brilliant action here. Jeffrey Ritchie now 10th, Lenny Pipinter 11th, and Sabo Konya now drops down to 12th. Bena getting very frustrated. He's still down in 13th place, mugged off, and now can't still get past the Hungarian on the hard tyre. Not working at all well for him as Luke Smith now gets within range, and this is the moment he needs to start charging that battery up, Dan, to get it to a respectable level, to the point where he can maybe try and fight for this victory.
Yeah, it's Parajic with 65%, Ronhart with 50%, and then just about 30% for Luke Smith. Same goes for Longue, so both of these guys have got to conserve their battery for the time being. You won't be seeing them trying to fight with these two leaders for some time in this race. It is also a pretty fast circuit, very difficult to charge the battery, although Calais has done a good job of it, Andy. He's got 94% in the battery.
Oh, so dark horse winner last time out after getting that penalty removed. Shinaka Clay was a dark horse in that race. Is he going to be a dark horse again in this race and come through after what was a below par qualifying performance to try and win this Grand Prix? Well, let's see if he can. He's got a full battery to use over the remaining laps, so let's see what he can do from there. There's no doubt about it. He knows if he wants to win this championship, he needs to outscore Nicolas Longue today. Longue with 14th on the grid. If he doesn't outscore him today, then I could think he can start to think about wishing his championship goodbye as the laps tick by here in France and in the championship in terms of rounds as well. Only 3 rounds left after this. Shinaka Clay knows he needs to outscore Longue, as does Alvaro Caraton, as we watch Ronhart get closer again to the back of Parajic, but not close enough. And I feel, Dan, this is all building up to a final lap battle as Luke Smith tries to get himself into position. He's gone up another 10%. He's into the 30s now with his ERS.
He's just slowly climbing up there. Same goes for Longue. The pair of them just saving the battery, not fighting at this point. It's also good because they're actually saving the tyres by doing this as well. It's going to mean they're going to have everything in their arsenal. We could be looking at a potential 1-2 for Alfa Romeo, a potential 1-2 for Williams as well, if Clay and Caraton can find their way up the order. The top 6 in a league of their own. They're 3.2 seconds ahead of Cartalundi as Louis Welch and Iker Baena both retiring in the pit lane, I believe.
So they're both retiring in the pit lane. Not too sure what's happened between those two, but it's not worked at all for them. That's 5 retirements now. We've lost Louis Welch, Iker Baena, Tino Nakarunen, Will Lewis, and Brendan Lee with that spectacular wheel failure that saw him drop out of this battle. He would have been in this fight here for the victory, and that's why we've got 6 drivers contesting the victory as Ronhard gets closer again. And are we going to see a change of leadership here? Round the outside he goes and into the lead of the French Grand Prix once again. And I'll look at the ERS management. There it is. Ronhard 60%, just under. Varadis 70%. Luke Smith 40% now. Longy 36, lower than Luke Smith at the minute, who had a lot more a moment ago, as we can see Paradis getting close again into turn 11, but not close enough to go for that move. And you just feel Luke Smith wants to get himself into that second position with those fresher tyres and maybe mount a challenge for victory.
He's taking much deeper lines into the corners, and it's almost like he's going to hit the Mercedes car, Tomek Paradzic, but not quite. He just manages to get the car stopped in time, but I think that's a sign of his intention that he's going to try and go for a move at some point in this race as they file on to begin lap number 24. We have 4 laps left to go in this Grand Prix. It's still Ronhard leading from Paradzic, Luke Smith and Longue, who's put up an excellent performance today to get up into the top 4 and a potential for a win of this race. As they file on in towards the first sector, can any of these guys grab a move early on and potentially put themselves in a more favourable position come the end of this race?
Yeah, it's going to get very, very interesting with just a few laps to go then. So folks, buckle up at home and get ready. This could be a massive, massive day in the championship fight as Luke Smith tries to close in. Paradzic, is he going to swap positions again with Thomas Ronhard? No, not this time. He's going to be happy to stay where he is as Luke Smith is almost pushing Paradzic through the chicane. And are we now going to see him use his ERS and maybe go for a move? We are. Luke Smith then wants to move into second place. He wants to go down the inside of Tomek Paradzic. Here we go then. Side by side through turn 10 they go. What action here? Luke Smith is round. He's in the wall. He's out of the race. Luke Smith retires here on lap 24, fighting for the victory. Looked like he might be on course to do so, and he's now in the barrier, and that's huge. We've got a safety car with just 3 laps to go. That could be massive in this championship fight, no doubt about it. Luke Smith's out of the race, and probably the championship fight as well, Dan.
That is heartbreaking, I'd say, for Luke Smith. He was on for a potential win in this Grand Prix. A pin has been put into the action. I think 200 of our hearts have all just sank at the same time because Luke Smith out of this race. That makes it 6 retirements. We're seeing the likes of McClavchich, West, Ritchie, all these guys pulling into the... Actually, Jack West has stayed out on circuit, but McClavchich, Pepinta, DeCapua, Parnell, Brown and Jabakonyi, these guys are at the bottom of the order. They have nothing to lose at this point, and surely with 6 or 7 laps fresher tyres, they're going to have a huge advantage come the end of this race. They're going to have time to catch up to the Aston Martin safety car, and we are going to get going. I'd imagine, I think it is mandatory 2 laps of racing, so we might actually see the safety car come in at the end of this lap.
And well, could this have a big change in the championship? The top 5 of the drivers at the top of the championship in the top places, but we've got all these drivers fitting soft tyres, and they could really get involved in this fight for victory now. But will they have enough laps to get to the front? Whatever happens, Dan, this should be an exciting finish if we get going again.
Yeah, and remember, we're not actually going to see any DRS because after a safety car period ends, it is 2 laps until it's re-enabled. We haven't got 2 laps, we've only got 2 laps left so in this race, so we're not actually going to see DRS for the remainder of this Grand Prix. Normally when they cross into the 3rd sector is when we get the message, and there it is, safety car already coming into the pit lane, but the drivers in behind, like Pepinta, like McClavchich, they've all managed to get onto the back of the train, and these guys are going to be so quick onto the rear of all these drivers on worn out soft. But on lap number 25, it is Thomas Ronhard still leading from Tomek Paradzic and Nicolas Longue in behind. I don't know what's going to happen from here, Andy, but I just know it is going to be a hellacious ride.
Well, it has been a difficult weekend for the French fans watching here on home soil, watching Longue struggling qualifying, but now he's up to 3rd. But this man, Lenny Pepinta, the lead driver, the other Frenchman in the field, the lead driver on fresh softs, what can he do? Can he pull off a shock here and get to the front of the field? It'll be a tough order in just 2 laps, but we'll find out as we get going again. This could be a massive 2 laps in the destiny of this WR Championship today. As we get underway again, everyone freshening up the batteries, loading them back up to near 100%. Will it be Ronhard? Will it be Parajas? Will it be Longi? Or will it be someone in the pack charging through? Pepinter already getting close to the back of Richie, but not close enough for that move. Dan, this is going to get very, very exciting.
Yeah, and surely there's going to be a sense of urgency now for all these drivers to make the moves that stick as soon as possible. Already, Tomek Parajas, he's not going to see DRS for the rest of this race, and that might be an incentive to go, go, go. He's using up his battery down this back straight, the Mistral straight in towards turn number 8. He's gaining on Thomas Ronhard, but the corner is not going to come quick enough for him because into the braking zone he goes. He can't get the move done this time by possibly on the exit if he uses up some of the battery. Oh, a slight slide and a kick of the rear, fishtailing down this short little straight in towards turn number 10. He's going to look possibly to the inside. Ronhard squeezing him, but it's Parajas fighting his way through. He makes a gap stick, and they're going to be wheel to wheel now through turn number 11. Ronhard going to switch him back here on the penultimate lap this race as they're still wheel to wheel off the exit of turn number 11, but it's all contact and Ronhard's lost his wing.
Oh, that's crazy. I can't believe they've done that. That's going to be delight for Nicholas Longi, who qualified down in 14th place. Ronhard, one of the championship contenders, drops by the wayside. He joins Luke Smith on the sidelines. And Longi now into an unlikely second place. And Ronhard's going to hold them all up down the straight as well. And that will surely seal the second place here for Nicholas Longi at the very least. Shinaka Clay knows he needs to pass him now into turn 1. He does so. He goes for the move, gets it done, and moves into third place. And now Longi, from 14th in the grid, might still have the opportunity to win this race. That was an incredible move from Parajas. He's always been an aggressive driver. We saw that in the fight with Luke Smith earlier that led to the crash. But that was a superb dummy into turn 11. It snatched the lead of this race. But in the end, it looks like he's only going to take 7 points out of Nicholas Longi, which is an incredible situation from what we had at the start of this Grand Prix. We're on the final lap. Longi getting closer. Are we going to see a repeat from what we've seen on the previous lap? Is Longi now going to try and line up a move on Tomek Parajas? Let's have a look at the battery. He's down at 19%. Longi, though, is also low on this final lap, and I don't think he's going to get close enough. Well, Longi from 14th on the grid, up now into second, knows that this is still a good result, but he wants to go for the jugular. He wants to come from 14th to win this Grand Prix. He's getting closer to the pole, but not close enough to make any kind of move at the minute on this final lap. Surely this is in the bag for Parajas. What a recovery, though, from the Frenchman from 14th on the grid. He's seen 2 of his rivals fall by the wayside and get no points at all as they come round the final corner. Parajas went for the cover off. Longi slides out the final turn. It ain't going to work. Parajas wins here. What a race here it's been in France. He wins from Longi. Shinaka Clay is third. Fourth is Alvaro Canaton, and Carter Lundy, a brilliant fifth. De Capua ends up sixth from the back row of the grid. Astonishing stuff. What a race. What a finish. Longi recovering brilliantly, Dan.
Absolutely mental. 2 laps at the end there. Driver of the day awarded to Alessio De Capua, but I think there's got to be one man in mind that we'll get onto at some point. But there is the podium celebrations. It is Tomek Parajas, the Polish driver. He set possibly the best pole lap of all season, and he converts that to a race win. Nicholas Longi, though, you've got to give him credit, going from P14 on the grid to finishing in second. Shinaka Clay makes up the podium, but what an end to a race that was.
Yeah, what an end to the race. Nicholas Longi, that did not look likely at all in the opening stint. He was down in 15th. He lost ground at the start, but he recovers well to second. He will be absolutely ecstatic with this outcome. But Parajas nonetheless has eaten into that championship lead, cuts the gap down to 15 points as a result. Longi second, Shinaka Clay third. Shinaka Clay and Alvaro Canaton, they will be gutted to see the Frenchman ahead of him and on the podium. That is a disaster for both Williams drivers. Carter Lundy in fifth. De Capua from last to sixth. What a job he's done. Pepinter could only get 7th. Jeffrey Ritchie was 8th. McClassic 9th. And Ben Chabot was 10th. Leroy Brown, then it was Thomas Ronhard. What a disaster for him. Jack West was next. What a crazy race that was, Dan. Incredible stuff. And Nicholas Longi recovering brilliantly to second. And to be honest, he's got to be driver of the day, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he put on a great performance today. you got to give him credit. That's why he's championship leader. His gap has been cut down ever so slightly by Tomek Parajic, who's really inserting himself into this championship hunt. And you have to think, if he did more races, he would certainly be a lot closer than what he is now to Longuet. But certainly for the last 3 races of this championship, it is going to be a very fun ride.
Yeah, it sure is. We had several drivers in this title hunt going into this race tonight. Did we lose 2 of them from the championship fight, Dan? Luke Smith in the barrier. He was an outside bet anyway for the title. I think it's over for him. What about Thomas Ronhaar? Big opportunity missed. And perhaps desperation seeping in the championship and in the end paying the price?
Yeah, I think he was a bit over-ambitious in trying to overtake Tomek Parajic. He could have just waited until the last lap and then closed up and tried to do what Tomek did to him on that tour, but he got greedy, I'd say, and that was his Hamatra. That's what undid it for him. He got the wing damage, and it was race over for him. That could be the end of his championship hunt. I'd say, unfortunately for Luke Smith, it is firmly in the bed at this point. I don't believe he's going to be able to come back from this. It is nil point, as the French say, I believe. Hopefully I've not just made up a saying, but yeah, he's going to stick on 76 today.
Yeah, I learnt French at school, but I'm not very good at it. But I can tell you, the nil point, that would be correct, I think. But anyway, great race in the end. But yeah, I think you're right. Luke Smith, game over for him in the championship. I'd probably say for Ronhaar as well, with just 3 rounds left. Even Shinaka Clay and Alvaro Canaton, that's got to heart. Longy coming through from 14th to finish ahead of them and score more points. They were already nearly a race win behind. I think they will be now after this result. So it's a tall order from them as well. I think they're really needing a bad result from Nicolas Longy to get back into this. I'd say it's looking more and more likely like this is Longy versus Tomek Parajic for the title. We'll have to wait and see though. Stranger things have happened in WOR, but wow, what a race we witnessed there tonight. A lot of incident and intrigue as well. We talked briefly about the one with Ronhaar, a little bit audacious. What about the incident with Luke Smith? I never really got a good view of it, Dan, from the broadcast. What did you make of that one? It looked like a pretty high-speed shunt. Well, it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm not too sure what really happened there, but I think what Luke Smith forgot to do was turn off the ERS when he was going through a high-speed corner, and I did notice that he was sliding a bit. Even before, I think he slid into Parajic,
okay.
if I'm not mistaken. That might be disproven by a video on Twitter at some point, but that's my view of it. That's what I think happened, is that he slid into Parajic, which sent him even to a more of a slide. And the walls, even though they're typically quite far away from the circuit around this track, they decided to just plop one right in the middle there, and was unfortunately right in the perfect position for Luke Smith to go side on and lose both of his tyres.
Yeah, you know you're unlucky if you spin at the French Grand Prix and hit a barrier. You know you've been pretty unlucky there. And Luke Smith, that is indeed the case for him, running into the barrier. But what a race it was tonight. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, folks, be sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. We're here for the remaining 3 races of the season, Sunday nights at 7 PM UK time. Be sure to check the rest of the action out. We're waiting to see if anyone will come in for interview, but before we do, I'm just going to have a quick look at one of our sponsors, GridRival. Be sure to check it out. Racing has never been this fun. Check out the link below or search World Online Racing, all one word, and join the league today on the GridRival app. GridRival, it's basically an app that hosts motorsport fantasy leagues, and WOR have got a Formula 1 set up. You can buy lots of drivers for each race that comes up. So say Miami next week, you can pick Max Verstappen and a few other drivers, whoever you think is going to run well in Miami, and compete against everyone in the community. So be sure to check out GridRival. I'll jump on the screen and we'll have a look and see if anyone is indeed in the waiting room, but it doesn't appear that is the case at the minute. So with time ticking by, Dan, it doesn't look like we're going to get anyone. But just to confirm, Dan, who are you going to go for driver of the day? And everyone in chat, who are you going for driver of the day? I think it's a toss-up between two. Is it Alessio Di Capua or is it going to be Nicolas Longy? I'd say they're the two major ones.
You've also got to think about Tomek Parajic. You know, he just drove a really consistent and clean race. He let everyone else sort of have their own mistakes. He just drove pretty much flawlessly. And I think from that qualifying that lap as well, you know, it's not just driver of the race, it's driver of the day in total. And I'm going to say it's Tomek for me.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, you've gone for Tomek Baradzis, and that means that we maintain, Dan, a little bit of variety in the commentary box with our choices. I'm going to give a special mention to De Capua, but I'm going to give it to Nicholas Longy. It did not look likely early doors. It really looked like it was going to be a struggle, but things fell his way. He kept his nose clean, cut through the field, and got himself into second place. What a result. Did not see that coming at all. So well done to Nicholas Longy on second. Well done to Tomek Baradzis on the victory. That's all we've got time for here tonight. Doesn't look like any of the drivers are going to jump into interview. We've got 3 rounds left in this exciting WOR season. Tomek Baradzis has cut the gap to within 15 points of Nicholas Longy. Will it be the Frenchman? Will it be the Pole? Or can someone else, the 2 Williams drivers of Shinaka Klein and Alvaro Canaton, can they still get into the fight for the title? We'll have to wait and see. Be sure to join us again next week. I've been Ginger Andy. He's been Dan Field. We'll see you again for another exciting race next Sunday again here in WOR. That's all from us tonight. Good night.
On his debut, Jarno Opmeer wins at Spa.
It's Martinez in Montreal. David beats Goliath.
It's a true underdog story. John Evans wins at Mexico.
And it's Super Sam Corby who takes the PlayStation Championship.
FRA Ron takes his first WOR championship. He is your Xbox champion.
And Jake Benham is a 2-time WOR champion.
Uppbeat around the outside of a line. Shadow is contact again. Rodha is around.
Bethany, surely is going to win here at Abu Dhabi. He does.
16 races across 5 continents. From Brazil to Belgium and Bahrain to Britain. Soon this story starts. Across 3 platforms, hundreds will begin the quest. The quest in search of glory and the right to be called a WOR champion. Lights out, and we're racing in Season 12.